To order, it is 7:11, March 28th, 2003. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Calvo,
Present.
Ms. Casals Munoz is absent, Ms. Garcia Robes,
Present.
Ms. Perez,
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez is absent, Mr. Tumidor,
Present.
Mr. Zaghi.
Present.
Madam President, you have enough members to conduct business.
Thank you so much. Can we please have the invocation? If everyone could please rise.
Lord, we pray for your guidance and direction and benefit of those who live and work in the city of Hialeah. Amen.
Amen. Can we please all face the flag and do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, I love to hear those little voices saying the Pledge of Allegiance so loud. So nice. Okay, can we please read the meeting guidelines?
The following guidelines have been established by the city council. All lobbyists must register with the city clerk. As a courtesy to others, please refrain from using cellular telephones or other similar electronic devices in the council chamber. A maximum of 3 speakers in favor and 3 speakers in opposition will be allowed to address the council on any one item. Each speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No signs or placards in support of or in opposition to an item or speaker shall be permitted within the council chamber. Any person, whether participating via the web platform, telephonic conferencing, or physical presence at City Hall, interested in making comments or posing questions on matters of public concern or on any item on the agenda may do so during the meeting. Members of the public may address the city council on any item pertaining to city business during the comments and questions portion of the meeting. A member of the public is limited to 1 appearance before the city council, and the speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The public can view public meetings on the city's YouTube page. Members of the public may hear the meeting live through telephonic conferencing using any telephone or cellular phone service. A smart device or computer are not necessary to participate in the meeting if you join by phone. All persons participating via the web platform will be muted during the meeting until called upon to be heard. Participation through Zoom requires a computer or smart mobile device with a microphone and web camera. The participant may elect to participate in the meeting using audio only or appear through both audio and video. The video function of all participants appearing through video will be turned off until called upon to be heard.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. We're going to move on to presentations, but I'm going to shift things around a little bit if you, those in the audience don't mind. I'm going to begin on presentations, but on item B, and I would like for us after the presentation, council members to please vote on the item so that the students don't have to wait because they do have school tomorrow. Please, if you could read that into the record.
Presentation by the students of St. John the Apostle Catholic School regarding consent item B, which proposes the approval of naming East 4th Street between East 4th Avenue and East 6th Avenue as Eagles Way.
Thank you so much. So I'm excited to hear about this item. Is there anyone here that's going to present from the school?
Good evening. My name is Sofia Diaz, and I'm a student at St. John the Apostle Catholic School. Tonight, I'm here to ask that East 4th Street be renamed Eagles Way. St. John has been a part of the community for over 70 years. My school has always provided the students with a safe and fun learning environment. St. John has also made a very positive and faithful impact in the community through all these years. I speak for all of us when I say that it will be an honor for East 4th Street to be named Eagles Way. Thank you. Go Eagles.
I love that. Great job, Sophia. And the mayor and I love your name because my daughter's name is Sophia and his daughter's name is Sophia. So we both love that name very much. Go ahead. And your name is?
Hello, my name is Suleika Gonzalez of the 5th grade class of St. John the Apostle Catholic School. It would be an honor to have our street named after our mascot, the eagle. With over 70 years active in the community, St. John continues like the eagle to look ahead and prepare us, the students, to be Catholic global citizens of the world. Changing East Fourth Street to Eagles Way will remind people who the Eagles are and what St. John the Apostle Catholic School means to the community. It is with Eagle pride and honor that I stand before you today to petition the name change to Eagles Way. Go Eagles.
I love that.
Good evening. My name is Mia Victoria Garcia. I am a student at St. John the Apostle Catholic School. I am here to request that the street of East 4th be renamed to Eagles Way. It is an honor to be here and to represent my school that has been in this city for more than 70 years. I would love for this to pass so I can share this legacy with my kids of my own in the future. Thank you, and let's go Eagles.
Wow. That's a very good point. Very true. So how did this project come about? Who was inspired to name the street? How did this come? Is this a school project? Is this a grade project for all fifth graders?
It was kind of something that started in class. We were talking about City Hall and, how the county.
Can you join us on the microphone so that people online could hear you if you don't mind? Thank you.
All right, this all started really, I was teaching, I'm a social studies teacher. My name
Okay.
is Diana Fernandez, by the way.
Okay.
And we were learning about the city council and how the voting and how things get passed or rejected within the city. And so now that we just
It evolved.
said, we got involved and why don't we do something?
I love
And
that.
so we said, well, we just start a petition. And that's what we did. We presented our petition to Mayor Vogel when he visited our school.
Mm,
And now everything is snowballed from there.
That's amazing.
And they've done an amazing job. I'm very proud of them.
Oh, that's good. And we're proud of you too, Ms. Fernandez, for inspiring them. So thank you so much.
Through the chair,
Yes, you're recognized.
Ms. Fernandez, how long have you been at St. John's? I remember you. Do you remember when I taught there? I think I had one of your classes. Do you remember? Yes, yes, I remember you. Absolutely. Good to see you. Thank you. That's all I had to say.
Well, we're very proud to see you guys here and making a difference. And like your last classmate said, Mia, it's true. This is the legacy. And you could drive by and see the sign up and say, hey, I did that. And there's a pride in having your voice heard, right? So that's wonderful. I'm a teacher myself, so I think that my hat's off to you and to your students. I would ask to see if maybe our council members wouldn't mind pulling item B and voting on it at this time. Do I have a motion on item B?
Motion.
I have a motion by Vice President
Second.
Garcia Roes, and I have a second by Council Member Zogby. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you and congratulations to all of you.
Through the chair.
Would you like, yes,
Through the chair,
you-
just, Mr. Mayor, if you could advise us when the street naming will be, so we can participate with, that'd be great, yeah.
Absolutely, and I think it's something that we will all take joy in participating. As many of you know, our Deputy Chief of Staff, Carlos San Jose, is an alumni of St. John's. And I think he's on their board also. And really, it's a testament to the students and their experience of getting involved in community. When so many statistics and polling is showing that people are caring less and less about their community, I would ask them to maybe look at the city of Hialeah and look specifically at St. John's for kids that not only care, but are doing something about it. And I'm just surprised this wasn't done a long, long time ago. So I'm proud that I'll be the mayor that gets to pull the string along with the students and all of you when we do the unveiling of the street, and go Eagles.
Go Eagles.
Go Eagles.
Would you like to take a photo up here? Would you guys like to come up? Come on up. We have our city clerk that also graduated from St. John's. So there you go.
Good job, guys. Good job.
It was the other day. Are we gonna say go Eagles on the count of three? 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you so much. We're gonna move on to item C. Thank you. Yes, we pulled the item early so that if you guys needed to leave, you can, all
Well, wait a
right?
second, wait a second, wait a second.
Unless you want to stay with us till about
No, no.
10:30, 11 at night.
Wait a second, Madam President.
Yes, hold on. The mayor would like to say something. 1 second.
If you could all just wait to this next presentation, and I think it's just a correlation, so if I might.
Yes, go ahead.
Madam President, we're blessed to have St. John's in the city of Hialeah, one of the Catholic schools that we have, like Immaculate Conception. And we have other really good schools, and one of those gems in our city is Horeb. And I recently had an opportunity to go visit the school and talk to their administrators and some of their student council members. But today we want to honor, and the reason I wanted all of you to stay here is because I don't know if many of you know this or not, but the Horeb girls basketball team is really, really good.
Yeah.
And they're so good that they have a roster of 6 players, and they made it all the way to the state final. Now, they didn't make it, but I saw them play a district, and I'll tell you something, there's something to say about girl power. Now, some of you know that when I was younger, I thought I'd be a basketball player. And I realized that I was too small and too short, and I couldn't hit a jump shot. So I had to come up with another plan. But with us,
Not bad where you landed.
well, okay, all right. Well, still kind of wanted to be in the NBA, but anyways, it didn't happen. Anyways, but with us today is I guess the leader of that team. So much so she's the leader of that team that she opened. I want you all to listen to this. She is the Miami-Dade County Girls Basketball Player of the Year. I mean, that's a big deal. Okay, and she's with us here, and we really wanted to honor her because we want to shine a light on all those that could take the name of Hialeah to different levels. And with us today is Emily Rodriguez. Emily, come on down, Emily.
If we could please go down, council members.
So, like I said, I got to see Emily play in the districts where they beat the 2-time defending state champions. I think it was Miami Christian, and like I said, with 6 players. That means 5 of the girls, actually 6 players, but 5 of them do most of the minutes. And if you know basketball, every team that plays them presses them basically from the beginning and to tire them out. They beat Miami Christian, 2-time state champions, defending champions. And then they went on, like I said, to Lakeland. It's a big, big deal for us here in the city of Hialeah. And Emily, as I said earlier, we're so proud of your accomplishment. She's going to be, she's being recruited by everybody. So you're going to watch ESPN in a couple of years. You're going to hear her, and hopefully they say from Hialeah, right? See, okay. So this certificate of merit is for you. ¿Quieres decir una palabra? Are you sure? ¿Seguro? ¿En español? Si quiere. No? Okay. All right. Bueno, thank you.
I'm like, why are you coming to me? Okay. All right. Moving on to. No, thank you. Have a good night.
Aye.
All right, if we could please move on to item A, please. Oh, wait,
Through
we
the
have
chair.
item D.
Yeah,
You wanted to go through item D first? Let's move on to item D, because I think item A is a little bit lengthy.
Presentations by students of the Palm Springs Middle School regarding their Project Citizen, which focuses on the Hialeah noise ordinance.
Mayor, members of the council, these are the students of Palm Springs Middle. I was actually fortunate a couple weeks ago to visit their classroom. They're working on something called Project Citizen, which is essentially a competition where they get to talk about changes that they'd like to make in their city. And for purposes of the competition, the students focused on looking and examining our Hialeah noise ordinance. So they have a little presentation so that they can try to convince you all that there's a needed change in this space of Hialeah's ordinances. Very bright students. We had a great engaging conversation, and props also to their teacher, Mr. Llerena, who's here in the audience. I guess it ended up being fortunate that Carlos San Jose's alma mater was here today, because this is my alma mater, Palm Springs Middle. So you know, this is definitely where it starts. So I'll leave the floor to them.
You're next.
Hi, how are you? Can you give us your name and then start your presentation?
Good evening. My name is Michael Caceres.
My name is Jaira Rosales.
My name is Ray Rodriguez.
Hello, my name is Michael Rosquete.
And I speak to you on behalf of my fellow law study classmates at Palm Springs Middle School. This year, our teacher, Mr. Llerena, taught us about Project Citizen, a program that teaches us that our voices matter and the value of being an active citizen to improve the quality of life in our communities. It is an honor for me and all of us here today to present, and we are grateful for the time to present you all with our thoughts. Let us pretend you are having a barbecue party. It is 12 in the afternoon and your family and friends are enjoying the day. A few minutes later, you hear a knock on the door and it is the police department informing you of a noise complaint. Turns out your neighbor called the police on you because the noise went beyond your property line. You wonder how and why this happened. In Article 5, Section 58-47A of Municipal Code of Hialeah, you will find a noise ordinance that is too strict because it lacks parameters. The ordinance is essentially unenforceable. As it stands, you can never have any sound go beyond your property. We are asking the council to amend the current ordinance to include parameters so there is a balance between the rights of citizens to enjoy their festivities on their own property and the rights of other citizens to enjoy silence during the night for a good night's sleep. Noisy nights in Hialeah is a big problem for several reasons. To state the obvious, without a good night's rest, you're tired and grumpy. If people do not get a good night's rest, they may resort to taking a sleep medication and risk their side effects. Second, when your quantitative and qualitative sleep is disturbed, it increases your risk of cardiometabolic disease. Sleep disturbances could also increase the risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and hypertension. Lack of good night's sleep affects students' ability to study and increases attention deficits in kids and adults. If we place some parameters on the current noise ordinance, like the construction ordinance does, then we balance in a fair way the rights of all citizens. This will result in a happier and healthier neighbors respecting each other's rights and a higher quality of life in the community. All these benefits and fact that property values can also increase, bringing more revenue to the city. Therefore, it is our humble ask that our selected class policy be considered by this council. Our policy suggestion is that the current noise ordinance be amended to include day and time parameters. These new parameters would be limited to no noise beyond one's property to 10 p.m. through 7 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 12 a.m. through 9 a.m. Friday through Saturday. We feel that these new parameters would be more effective than the current policy as it would be more reasonable and easier for officers to enforce and will improve the health and happiness of the citizens of this great city. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's a very well thought out, argument that you did there. And I know that we've worked in the past. I worked with Mr. Llerena in the past in the class. You guys always come up with great ideas. So I salute you and applaud you for, really involving them to, have some critical thinking and ways to problem solve their community. I know in the past we worked on crosswalks with your teacher and a class that they had about 2 years ago. And we fixed different crosswalks in the neighborhood and in the city that were dangerous. And that was something that we work with our streets department. You got that? No, it's okay. I think that's a great idea. Mr. Llerena, did you send us the parameters of what they're asking and the amendments to the ordinance? Or can you have them maybe send it to the city clerk and then she could email it to all of us so that we could look it over and consider it if it's something that. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you for those well thought out ideas and for coming here, from being brave enough to speak. Do any council members would like to speak to the students?
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
I think this was a great idea. Thank you, Councilman Calvo, for bringing this forward. It's funny because the last 2 weeks, our office has gotten actually complaints on trash collection pickup times and the noise that it makes. So I think I don't know if Yahmani is here but one of the things that we asked them is, hey, is there a regulation on time restrictions, right, for trash to get picked up within multifamily residential complexes? And the answer was no. So I think this would be a good time to work together with Councilman Calvo and the students from Palm Springs Middle on this.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, if we can, maybe through the city clerk's office, I think part of their project, they wanted to get some data. So whatever we have in this space, maybe how many noise complaints we've gotten or stuff like that within the last 6 months, say, I think that would help for their project purposes. And I'm excited to see, hopefully the project all goes well and maybe we'll have champions back in City Hall in a couple weeks or months, whenever the competition finally concludes.
When's your deadline for your competition?
Our teacher's supposed to turn it in April 5th by 3.
Okay. So we're a little bit on a time constraint. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I think if they propose it, it could still go through competition and evolve. I know that's how we evolved last time. So that's okay. Don't worry. Your competition, you could still win. It doesn't depend on us. Okay. And you've done all the hard work. So don't be confident. Anybody else?
Nice job. Thank you.
Well done.
Mayor?
Well, as far as any data that you might need, you just reach out to our office and we'll make it happen. I've been a judge on Project Citizen in the past. Some amazing ideas that come forward. Some have gone to Tallahassee and have made it, and this is a different wrinkle as they come to petition us. And so I'd be interested to see the details of the proposal, and then perhaps that's something that we could kind of collaborate. The only caveat is I'd like to see what their opinion of the noise ordinance will be when they're about 20 years old. But that's okay. Yeah. Okay. But and all the information you need, by all means, we'll make it available for you. Okay.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Llerena. Thank you to your students. We appreciate it. Did you guys want to come up and take a photo?
Sure.
Mr. Llerena, did you want to come up? I think here is good. I think it comes out better. The picture when we're here is on there. Actually, it comes out better. Okay, then I go. Of course.
It's the entire screen.
So this way, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, we're gonna do one here.
And we're gonna do the second one. And then coming.
Thank you so much.
All right, if we could please now move on to presentation A.
Presentation by the Corradino Group regarding the proposed annexation report the firm has been working on.
Do you have anybody here for that presentation, or are they online? Are they in council chambers? No.
No?
I'm not sure. Is Deborah on by any chance?
Deborah's here.
Deborah's here.
Where's she at? Okay. Deborah, did we want to did we tell the Corradino group or?
No, we didn't. I knew it was postponed, but I didn't know it was for today, so I didn't coordinate
Yeah.
with them.
Can we move to table this for next month?
For next
So
week,
I have a move, well, it's a presentation, so.
you want it for the
I don't
next
need to.
meeting or?
For the last meeting in April, Mayor? Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
should.
perfect.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilmember Tundidor to motion to table till
April 25th.
April 25th.
Second,
Okay, I have a second by Councilmember Zogby. Can we please call roll?
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Roes, Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
yes.
Motion carries. The presentation is postponed until April 25th, 2023.
Thank you. Do we have any comments and questions at this time from anyone here in council chamber or online? Seeing that there is none, we're going to move on. If you could please make the announcement of the amendments and correction to the agenda. Oh, we do. Come on up. Sorry, I didn't see you. If you could please give us your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Andrew Glassmer. I don't reside in the city of Hialeah. I'm a city of Hialeah employee. I work for the 911 center.
Okay, do you mind maybe giving then your?
Yeah, my
your
address is-
office, Your office?
83 East Fifth Street in the mezzanine.
Thank you.
I've been a city employee now for 6 years. Last week, you guys approved the contract for Ask Me employees, and we were kind of brought up. The human resources director brought us up, and I just watching it, I was kind of upset because I think she kind of undersold how tight we really are over there. And I appreciate you guys just letting me.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're
Talk
here to
to you.
express yourself.
It was said that there was only 10 vacancies in our division. Unfortunately, it's quite more. In actuality, there's only 25 full-time employees that work in that division. We're severely understaffed. And unfortunately, a lot of the problems with our staffing is retention. We can't retain people. We're losing them to other agencies that offer more tantalizing offers as in, good retirements that benefit them and that, we're losing them. We can't keep them. And unfortunately, it's not always about pay. And she's made some comments about vacation time. Unfortunately, it's not going to be vacation time either. We're losing them because we make the best employees in the city. The city of Hialeah makes superstars, and we go to any other agency and we are superstars. We're not working 8-hour days. We work a 12-hour shift and we work rotating shifts. Some weeks we work more than 40 hours. Some weeks we work 36. If we're short, we end up working a 16-hour day. And some of those days are without a lunch break. I know for a fact, none of our supervisors ever get a break. They don't get a lunch break. So they're working 16 hours and sometimes they have to double up and cover dispatch positions that are empty because we just can't get people. If somebody calls out sick, we have a 4-hour gap that has to be covered. We can't drop the ball. 911 cannot fail. We can't miss a phone call. We can't miss a house fire. We can't miss somebody's mother or father that's very ill. We can't miss a robbery in progress. We can't do any of that. And we're asking, I'm a frontline employee. There's somebody else here that's here with me. You know, our manager is here, our division commander is here, and I'm asking you, please work with us to try and do something, because you can consider us, I'm the canary in the coal mine right now. I've been here for 6 years and it's been a downhill trend since the day one that I got here. And unfortunately, we need your help. We're very, very desperate. I mean, really, the future outlook for our division is poor if drastic, rapid changes are not made. Like I said, we haven't dropped the ball yet, but it might get to that point. We work day in and day out to make sure that we are doing our job. I come to work and I do my job and I love my job. That's why I'm still here after 6 years. So I haven't jumped ship and gone anywhere else. And my time is up and I appreciate you guys letting me talk. Mayor Bobo, thank you for letting me speak, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming today. If you don't mind, I know that, you know, we always put that police is important, right? We talk about our firemen, but before they make that call, it's to our 911 operators, right? And you guys help make that transition. You talk people through an emergency when they're in a very difficult time that they're reaching out for help. We value your job. We value your service. I know that our human resource department is doing all they can to find employees. I know that Elsa has been working very hard trying to find incentives. Unfortunately, this is something that we're seeing nationwide. People don't want to work, right? Especially your job. Your job is a very difficult job and not many people are made for it, fit for it, or even want it. So to entice them to get to that position has been very difficult as the city to recruit professionals that are responsible, such as yourself and the other 25 members that are there right now. We understand, and I know that Mayor Bobo and I know the administration has been working diligently to try to, you know, really honor this department, because we know that this is what's going to make our other departments run smoothly. We understand that. We understand the difficulty that you're being faced with. Mayor, I don't know if you wanted to elaborate.
I don't think a day goes by that I don't have a meeting with someone that tells me that we don't have enough of something, okay? And the fine line that all of us have to walk, and the easiest way to describe this is that we represent the residents of the city of Hialeah, right? And they entrust us to make the best decisions possible with the money available to us to make. This city works a lot on grants. This city works a lot because a lot of the employees give more than they probably should be giving to make it work. And, you know, soon enough, we're going to find ourselves having to make extremely difficult decisions. If we want to be, if we want to achieve what we'd like to see in the city, they're going to be difficult decisions. But, you know, we will, as the style that we try to work in, we will look into the department. We will see. I've toured the department on numerous occasions. I'm aware of the difficulties. I'm aware that we train a lot of people that go elsewhere, and that is frustrating. And although you might say it has nothing to do with money, it does have to do a lot with money. You know, so we just have to double down and figure out, you know, better ways of doing things. But, you know, I will tell you, as we approach now and we start working on our budgets, you know, this is not a city de lujos. You know, this is not a city that that we have, you know, every council member has a chauffeur and a police honor guard that walks them, you know, to the bathroom. That we don't do that in the city. I've never done that in the city, or nor will I ever propose to do that in the city. But we need to be mindful of the medium income of our residents and what they expect us to do and you know, I'm a little remiss that you have to come to the city council because there's other avenues like coming directly to me, perhaps one of your supervisors, but that's quite all right. You know, we will continue to look at the ways we could not just better that department, every single department in City of Hialeah with the resources that we have available.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you recognize.
I just want to ask like one practical question, which is, so you mentioned obviously, you know, salary is obviously part of it, but it's not the full picture. And that the vacation days themselves is not the solution. So, I mean, between you and I guess the employees there, do you guys have a consensus of what that solution would look like?
A pension. A pension that's commensurate with other agencies that are nearby. The city of Miami Beach, Miami-Dade County, they offer pensions. That's why people go. The money is better over there. That's fine. I can live with a little bit less money, but like how Mr. Johnson said when they were there, I'm not trying to get rich working in the public sector, but I would like something for the fruits of my labor when I retire. You don't go into the public sector to get rich. I do this job because I love this job. And unfortunately, I'm here because that's what I saw what was going down. I had the fire union president talking on our behalf. I had Eddie talking on our behalf. We had other people on our behalf, but I felt like I needed to come down here. And I think working together with you, you guys can come and talk to us. We're more than willing to talk to you. You know, we work 24/7, 365. We don't drop the ball. We're here every day. The phone rings, we answer it. We need you guys to help us because we're underwater right now. We're bailing, we can't get the water out of the ship faster than it's coming in.
Okay, thank you so much.
Understood.
I know that, is there anything else that you wanted? I'm sorry, is there anything else? Or we're
I
done?
mean, just, you know, if it's a possibility, I mean, I myself, I haven't personally gone to the 911 center. So I think, you know, maybe that's a due diligence on my part to understand the issue more thoroughly. And that way we can kind of understand what the path forward looks like. So if there's any way we can organize that at some point, I'd like to do that.
Okay, I know that administration and the team are, you know, even though your contract was signed, you guys are still negotiating your salary. So I'm sure that that's a conversation to be had with the mayor. And I agree with you, council member. I think I myself haven't had the opportunity to visit, so I am going to so that I could be better versed on your needs. So I apologize. Anybody else? Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Glazer?
Glassmer.
Glasser. What?
It's GLASSMER, Glassmer.
Hmm.
Nice to meet you. I probably met you before. I respect what you do. Thank you for what you do. I started in '94 here in communications. Then I became a police officer. What you do is immensely important, immensely hard, and thank you. And we won't forget about that. Thank you, sir.
Mayor Bowe and the council, thank you very much for letting me.
Thank you, sir. Hi, good evening.
Eddie Perez asked me, president. Last time I was here, I was the only board.
Address, I'm sorry.
900 East 56th Street.
Thank you.
Last time I was here, I was the only board member. I don't know if you guys remember. That's your new treasurer right there for
Mhm.
Ask Me. There's a couple other board members here. They were just voted in today. I did have the opportunity to tour 911. I counted 4 employees. If they go to the bathroom, they gotta leave. They gotta go quick. They gotta leave their desk unmanned. Thank God there wasn't any emergencies. He's right. I started here at $9 an hour. It's not all about the money all the time. You want to keep people, you gotta fix the pension. You gotta bring them in. You gotta do something. That same day, I toured with Elsa and Commander Yanis, and one of the girls, I think that was her last week or her last day. There's no way you could keep her here. She jumped ship. She's going to the beach for, I think, $8 an hour more. So just take it into consideration when you see the hard workers that they are there and all around the city.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. If if I may, can we get some data on 911 calls and maybe here? Can we get some data on 911 calls just to see what's the typical per hour, how many calls we're getting, what's a peak time, just some kind of average data to understand what is it that we're looking at? Because if someone tells me there's 4 employees, but we're not getting that many calls, I don't, the duration of the call, just so that I could understand a little bit more the parameters of the department and what is expected of how many employees should be per shift.
Madam President, as of course, we will make all information available to all of you. You know, I would just remind you that it seems to me that we're, you know, the council by some of its comments are putting their feet in a realm that is product of collective bargaining, of negotiation, of which there was an agreement that was just done. And I think, and I've sat in the city council before and in the county commission, the same thing. It's very dangerous when we start trying to weigh in on these things, because I know the tendency is to want to give as much as possible, but that giving has to come from a source. Okay. And I just need to be very mindful of that. As I said, these are all issues that either have channels of which how to proceed on them. And again, if you could do this with every single collective bargaining unit that we have, and then turn this form into a negotiation, which I don't think is a wise thing to do.
With all due respect, Mayor, my inquiry is more about just understanding how many employees are in a department. So then when we come up for budget, we could understand how many employees should be there, and then maybe work with our grants department through emergency services to find funding to maybe allot for more salaries within that department. That's my idea behind it. And respectfully, I'm interested in that data for that reason.
Of course, I said I
Yeah.
would give it to you,
Yeah.
but again, it just got to be very careful. Because as I said, there is a collective bargaining unit, there is negotiations. On this front, with this particular collective bargaining unit, there's already been an agreement reached,
A
so.
contract reach. I understand that. Did you want to speak on the item?
Good
Go ahead.
evening, Mayor Bovo, distinguished council, Commander Yanes, 911 Division Commander, 83 East Fifth Street.
Thank you.
Your question, Council President, as far as January 2022 through December 31st, approximately 911 calls were about 140,161 calls. Administrative calls, total calls in the center was 342,947. So as far as your
Can you say that slower for me again,
Sure.
starting from the beginning? What's the date?
January 1st, 2022 through
Uh-huh.
December 31st, 2022.
Okay,
The 911 calls.
so the whole year.
Yes, incoming calls, 140,161 911 calls into the center. And we had a total of between administrative calls and 10-digit emergency calls, sometimes from outside of other jurisdictions.
Non-emergency, right?
Was a total of 342,947.
The 911 operators, the non-emergency calls and emergency calls off channel into the same department, correct?
Yes, we're considered one of the 7 PSAPs or public safety answering points for the Miami-Dade County.
And now is that typical through all departments to have non-emergency calls be funneled in through the emergency department?
Yes, mostly it's basically they reroute calls that may need within the city, even into City Hall, or just giving people the access point to information.
Got it. And that runs 24 hours, correct?
Yes, 365.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Yes, sir.
just, this is probably an obvious question, but how many of these calls were missed?
If there's an abundance of what they call abandoned calls,
Mhm.
as far as calls coming in through the center where, there's an accident or some sort of an emergency in the city, there is an overflow that rotates out to the county. That I can get you that number if it's something that's requested.
Okay, thanks.
Through the chair.
Sir, council member, are you done? Okay, you're recognized.
Commander, just a quick question. So let's say the call's missed by Hialeah and it goes to the county,
Yes,
is it triaged back to us? Does it come back to us
Yes.
eventually?
yes,
Yeah?
yes, it'll come back to us with whatever information they provided, and then we respond adequately.
Okay.
So it's our, Miami-Dade County is our PSAP coordinator. Basically, they're our calls, any of the other agencies, Aventura, Miami Beach, Miami, Coral Gables, ourselves, Pinecrest, those agencies that are other PSAPs in the county, that's their backup as far as Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
Officer Yanis, do we pay a service fee for that?
No, it's just part of the service that we
It's part of
provide.
the service. Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much, and thank you, members, for coming before us to give your concerns. Okay, we are gonna move on now to announcements of the amendments and corrections to the agenda.
Consent item S has been added to the agenda, and the following items are postponed until the city council meeting of April 25th, 2023. Item PZ 1, administrative items 11A, 11A1, and 11B.
Thank you. All right. We have board appointments. Item A, resolution A.
Proposed resolution appointing Olga Fernandez as a member of the Beautification Committee beginning on March 28, 2023, for a 2-year term ending on March 27, 2025, as one of the 4 city council appointments.
Is adding this member make now the board active? Able to meet?
The only vacancy would be the mayor's.
Okay, but they're able to proceed forward with
Yes.
meetings. Do we have Olga here, or maybe Councilman Tundidor?
Just a longtime resident, Madam President, 35-year resident here, professional, has extensive experience in property values. I think she'd be a great fit for this committee.
Thank you for the candidate. Do we have a vote on this item?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Tundidor. I have a second by Vice President Garcia Robes. Can we please call roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. We have resolution D.
Proposed resolution appointing Elizabeth Garcia to the Cultural Affairs Committee for a 2-year term beginning on March 28, 2023, and ending on March 27, 2025, as one of the 4 city council appointments.
Okay, do we have a motion on this item?
Absolutely. Motion.
Thank you, Councilman Zogby. I have a motion and I have a second by Councilman Tundidor. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Yes, Mayor.
Hey, Council President, just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce to all of you Kevin Linsky. Kevin, if you could just come up really quick. As you know, Armando Vidal has retired. And as we're doing our due diligence in the department, Kevin, who I worked with while at the county, has joined us on a temporary basis, although I'm trying to maybe change his mind, but on a temporary basis to make assessments with regards to the water department, and invaluable his input as vis-a-vis our relationship with the county as we're moving forward and trying to reconcile some items that have been left open. But I wanted to introduce all of you to him. He's accessible to all of you. Any questions that you may have, and I won't say any more. Kevin, you want to say a few words?
No, just good evening. I'm happy to be here. I was lucky enough to work with Mayor Bovo when he was at the county. I was running the water and sewer system for about 3 years. So it's kind of neat to be back in the saddle and something that I really enjoyed and got to learn. And the call was very welcome when it came in. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, welcome to the family of Hialeah.
Thank you
for
very
being here, and I look forward to meeting you. All
It'll
right.
be a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to our consent agenda. For the record, item B was already voted on. Do any members want to pull an item?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Item F.
F.
Yeah. It's in Frank.
Got that. Any other member want to pull an item?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Item L.
L. Thank you.
Otherwise, motion?
I have a motion by
Second.
Councilmember Zogby and I have a second by Councilmember Tundidor. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The consent agenda has passed except items F and L.
Thank you. Item F, please.
Proposed resolution approving an interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County for a term not exceeding 3 years for the enforcement of specified state misdemeanors as civil citations through the county's code enforcement and diversion program pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth in the interlocal agreement attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit A, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk as a testing witness on behalf of the city to execute the interlocal agreement and providing for an effective date.
Councilman Tundidor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Lorena, just a high level walkthrough of how this will be operationalized.
We have our police officers that are enforcing state statutes, which are misdemeanors, but the county has incorporated a number of those misdemeanor violations into its code and attached civil penalties. And so when a police officer out there is issuing a citation for these specific sections, those citations, instead of being prosecuted through the criminal justice system, will go through a civil enforcement system at the county.
So is there additional is there reimbursement that the city gets for this, or how does this, do we receive any type of revenue from this?
Good evening, Barbara Gove.
Hey,
I'm the
Barbara.
police legal advisor and one of the assistant city attorneys here in the city of Hialeah. Basically, what Ms. Bravo has indicated is correct. It's giving us another enforcement mechanism for our officers.
I'm sorry, can you lower the microphone, please?
Oh,
Sorry.
pardon.
Thank you, Barbara.
No problem. It's another way for our officers to conduct enforcement whenever a criminal statute has been violated. So there's certain offenses that would fall under this purview. For example, disorderly intoxication or consuming an alcoholic beverage near a grocery store or a bodega in our city. And instead of the officer conducting an arrest, what the officer does is that he or she issues a citation, and that's pursuant to the Miami-Dade Code of Ordinance. So that person will then have to appear before a county court judge or a magistrate judge, as opposed to going before a judge where the penalty would be incarceration. Instead, the penalty here would actually be a fine. And in regards to any cost that the city incurs, sometimes the state attorney's office does in fact charge a cost of prosecution based on the amount of citations that our officers in fact give. And we usually receive that on a quarterly basis, whether there's any cost involved that the city incurs.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I move.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you recognize. I have a motion by Councilman Tundidor for the record.
Mayor, I remember when we were discussing a couple months back, the election protection ordinance, one of the concerns was, do we have the capacity for our officers to be enforcing civil ordinances when they should be focused on the criminal? Is there a concern here with this, or do you think they kind of go hand in hand based on the specific ordinances that are being enforced?
I think it's better left for a police officer to answer that question, to be honest with you.
Well,
We have the
the
deputy.
offenses are actually enumerated in the interlocal agreement in regards to the ordinance that the person is in fact violating and we'd be able to enforce. So our officers are actually limited as to the ordinance that are enumerated in the agreement itself.
Right, I guess my question is, for example, we have our own code of ordinances that we could enforce, right? But we don't use our police officers for that. We use code enforcement for that.
That's correct, because
So-
there would be a presence requirement.
So now we're doing that for the county's ordinances?
No, it's apples and oranges here. It's very distinct. In regards to our code and that being violated, we're talking about the fact that a code inspector would have to be present when in fact that crime, or well, for lack of a better word, that offense is being committed. Now, the code enforcement officer will be the one issuing the citation for violating our code of ordinance. These are actually what is here in this interlocal agreement are actually state statutes in regards to offenses that have in fact been incorporated into the Miami-Dade County ordinance, and now is providing our officers the power in the enforcement mechanism actually in order to issue the citation as opposed to making the arrest.
So none of these ordinances that we would be enforcing have a presence requirement, these county ordinances?
Well, with our officers, no presence requirement in regards to a code inspector being present. But in regards to our officer, yes, he would actually have to observe that that violation is being committed. There are exceptions under Florida statute to certain types of crimes that the officer doesn't have to observe. For example, a battery, when a person actually strikes another person against, and there's that type of incident, the officer doesn't have to be present in order to have that probable cause in order to effectuate an arrest. But that wouldn't fall under the ordinances that are addressed in this interlocal agreement.
Right, so I guess the question is, what would be the difference?
That there are in fact ordinance that are addressed in this interlocal agreement where the officer has to be present when it's that offense is being committed.
Right, but like our ordinances, they have to be present as well.
In regards to a code enforcement officer being present, yes, the code enforcement officer would have to be present. For example, if there's a violation of our noise ordinance,
Right.
that code enforcement officer would have to appear on scene in order to make that observation or hear the audible whatever complaint is being made and go
No,
from there.
I understand that. What I'm saying is hypothetically, if we wanted our police officers to enforce the noise ordinance for Hialeah, this would be very similar to what we're talking about now with the county.
That is correct. There is a presence requirement for our officers. Yes, I'm just advising the council that there are certain statutes, state statutes, where there is not a presence requirement, but that is not incorporated in the enforcement mechanism of issuing citations.
Yeah, I guess my only point is, if we're going to be enforcing the counties, we might as well enforce ours, right? That's essentially my point.
It's a policy
That's a
decision.
policy decision, and yes, Ms. Bravo is correct.
I have to talk to someone. All right, well, yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Second the motion that's been presented.
So I have a first motion by Councilman Tundidor and I have a second by Councilman Zogby. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. We have item L, Councilman Calvo.
Request permission to utilize Lake County, Florida contract number 22-730H. Fire equipment supplies and services, contract that expires on July 31st, 2023. And issue a purchase order to Municipal Equipment Company LLC for the purchase of 108 sets of firefighting bunker gear in a total expense amount not to exceed $538,869. The funding for this expenditure is to be charged to the CDBG Fund, Capital Outlay Bunker Gear Replacement Fire Equipment Account Number 1038329541641.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Director, are these going to be replacing the current gear or would this be a second set? Or are we keeping the old one?
No, this is replacing it. Our
Complete
gear
replacement.
goes to roughly about 10 years is their expiration.
Okay.
The expiration for our current gear, and this isn't the whole department. The first set was given to firefighters and some officers, and the expiration date, I believe, is December 23.
Okay.
So we got another 8 months.
Do you know who's the manufacturer of these?
Yes, Lion.
Lion?
Mhm.
Do you
Yeah.
know, because one of the things that we were talking about recently was this whole mess with the PFAS and that being in the bunker gear. I guess my question is, if we're gonna be, making this investment, is it prudent to invest in gear that doesn't have that chemical?
There isn't much out there. It's one of the reasons I actually checked. We obviously tested several companies and they all, to make it fire retardant, it has to have some level of it. Eventually in the future, they'll develop something,
Yeah.
even foam, you know?
I know I'm nerded out a little bit on this. So I know the technology exists. It goes back to the early 2000s. It's actually, PFAS is being banned completely in California and New York, several other states. Florida hasn't gotten there yet, but eventually I'm assuming they will, due to all the liability that comes with it. I mean, I want our firefighters to have the gear. I just like them to have the gear that doesn't give them cancer.
No, Councilman, I agree with you. And like I said, that was one of my concerns. We're gonna purchase this now and it goes 10 years.
Yeah.
But like I said, when we asked every company, we looked at different companies, but as of right now, anything that will protect my guys, this is what the best. And like I said, the levels are low. That isn't like, it's obviously off-gassing PFAS. Eventually, through technology, they're gonna have where nothing has. But even if you look at foams, almost all foams which are getting pushed out have some level, slight level, but some level of PFAS. Because of their firefighting gear, like if you have foam, you know the reason
Right.
behind foam.
Yes.
So it creates a blanket,
Yes.
and depending on the hydrocarbons. Well, like I said, it's being pushed out, but
Right. How do we currently wash the gear?
we have washers at every station, and there is a protocol where they have to follow.
Are they specifically for decontamination, or are we using regular?
No, these are firefighting gear washers. We have one at every station. And like I said, there's specific detergents used. It's specifically for this. It's self-explanatory, but there's still instructions. Once they pull it out, because it's firefighting gear, you obviously can't put it in a dryer because of the heat. So there's a dryer, but it's more warm air and blows air across, which dries it.
Yeah, I was actually reading that it's like a double whammy, because you need to wash it, but then the more you wash it, the more the gear breaks down.
Mhm.
So the more you get the chemical, so you never win.
No, and then back in the olden days when he was a dispatcher in 94, no, back in the olden days, it was, the dirtier your gear, the better, the cooler you were.
Right.
And then even when you would wash it, you'd wash it every couple weeks, because it's like, like when you play sports and football, your uniform.
Yeah.
But nowadays, and we have actually at every scene, we have a bucket, we have detergent, and there's a process. After every fire, you're supposed to decon your gear. And, while you take it back, you have it sit there.
Yeah.
Because of obviously what we see now with the increase in cancer.
All right, motion.
Second. I have a motion by Council Member Calvo, and I have a second by Vice President Garcia Robles. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Tumnidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to administrative items. Item 11A has been postponed. So has been item 11B till April 25th, all three items actually. So we're gonna move on to item 11C, please.
First reading of proposed ordinance approving the release of a public utility easement traversing land located at 4935 East First Avenue, 125 East 49th Street, and 145 East 49th Street, all in Hialeah, Florida. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on this item?
Motion.
Motion, and I have a second by Councilmember Zogby.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
No.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumnidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you. Item 11D, please.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending the Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2 entitled Administration, Article 7, City Property, amending Section 2-902, Disposal of City Property, Waiver of Public Sale. authorizing the gift of service firearms to qualified retired City of Hialeah law enforcement officers upon retirement, and authorizing the gift of the City of Hialeah police canine to its handler upon retirement, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Do I have a motion on this
Through the
item?
chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mayor, how far back is this retroactive for the free gun? 6 years? I motion. They definitely
Second.
deserve it.
I have a motion as of 6 years ago by Councilmember Zogby.
I never got those.
I have a second by Council Vice President Garcia Robles. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby. Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you. Do we have any unfinished business?
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Just, Mayor, if it's possible for us, maybe every month moving forward to get the call stats of the water department. You know, we requested that, I think it was six, for the last 6 months. And the call metrics were actually, pretty bad. We didn't go further than that. And there was, I think the average, I think for the last 6 months, the average percentage of calls that were actually answered was less than 50%, right? And so it'd be great if we could just get the same call stats every month moving forward, just to be able to view them, Mayor.
Councilman, I think if there is a mission in the water and sewer department, it all revolves around customer service. So we're gonna be doing a very deep dive there. We'll be making some announcements shortly of personnel change and some of the adjustments that we're trying to make there. But that is where we need to keep our eye on the ball amongst a lot of other moving parts, but that is critical to, I think, the transparency that we're looking for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other unfinished business?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, Senate Bill 102, last meeting, we had a lively discussion on it. You missed out, but essentially the update is it was approved unanimously in the Senate 40-0, and then it was approved in the Florida House. I believe the vote was 103-6. Safe to say the governor is very supportive, so it'll be signed into law. I asked if potentially someone in the finance department or maybe in your staff, it's more appropriate to come up with a budgetary analysis on the impact of this bill could have. I'm concerned that some of the provisions of the bill, although are going to be great in the space of rent stabilization, if anything, it could have some budgetary impacts that would negatively affect the city. And I think we, all want to be prepared for that. So that's point number one. But then point number two on this is within the bill, I'll cue you in, there is a section there that calls for a municipal ordinance. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like, by the way, just for clarification, this bill, believe the sponsor was Calatayud. Hope I'm saying that right. And actually our very own Alex Rizzo was also a co-sponsor on the House. I think Hialeah is primed to be a leader in this space in the state. Certainly our own representative has been one of the ones pushing for it and its approval. And like I said, as part of the bill, one of the requirements is to craft a municipal ordinance that essentially adopts some of these programs that are spoken about in the bill at our municipal level. And so I'd like to task our law department to work up a draft so that, when this is signed into law, as we all assume it will be, we could be, right there and lead the state in this effort of, making this Live Local program work out for our community. Our community is definitely, I think, probably in the state, one of the ones that would benefit from it the most. Some of the programs offered include, if a property owner agrees, specifically, if a property owner agrees to limit the rent in a way then the city or the county would be able to provide incentives on a tax basis for that property. So it's a very interesting program, and I'd like to really kind of be working on this because I think if it's signed into law, as we all expect it will, we should definitely be at the forefront of this. I think the same way that we were kind of leaders in this space back when last year we proposed the 60-day ordinance that was then picked up by the county and by other cities across the state. So again, that's what I'm asking for today.
Answer your question directly, yes, of course, we will look at the piece of legislation. My understanding has not reached the governor's desk as of yet. And I'm not sure if the governor's office has taken a position on the legislation.
Yeah, so they actually did put out a statement saying that the governor was in full support of the bill. I mean, that's again what I saw online, but with the 40-0 vote, unanimous vote in the Senate and the 106-3, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's going to happen. I mean,
Well,
regardless, even with a veto, it would.
What I
certainly have a-
think we need to, what I believe, and again, I don't know if the governor, like I said, I don't know if I'll believe what you tell me that he's already made a statement. What I believe that we need to assess is, okay, how that impacts the city and its ability to provide service. This is a backdoor, my opinion, and notwithstanding all the friends that we have in the legislature, this looks to me like a backdoor way of getting to rent control.
Actually, it preempts rent control. Sorry to interrupt you.
Well-
It specifically says you can't do rent control.
Well, but if you're, notice what you said you said, if the owner of the property
Yeah, they would have
agrees
to
to
agree to it,
freeze
yeah.
rent, right? Then there are some considerations that we would give them. And usually that consideration would be probably some sort of freezing of their property taxes,
Yeah,
correct?
so I must have misspoke. It's not freezing of the rent. What it is that it's sort of like, instead of putting the rent at market price per se, it's 80% AMI. So that's
Okay.
specifically what it is. Obviously, for us in Hialeah, we're definitely usually lower than AMI. So in our specific space, it'll be interesting to see what exactly that number looks like. But I do remember, I wanted to bring up a piece of data. I do remember last year when we were discussing medium rent in Hialeah, I received a report from the Miami Realtors Association that I shared with the council, and it said that medium rent in Hialeah for a 1-bedroom at that time last year was something around $1,500, $1,550. Currently, that number today is closer, if not more than $1,800. And so what this program, which by the way, it's gotten huge support on the Republican side and bipartisan support, would say is, well, if you're a property owner and you agree to, rent out that unit, it's done in 1-year intervals. If you agree to rent out that unit for 80% of AMI, which is not necessarily 80% of market, but to kind of get an idea, shave a couple $100 off the rent, then you can tap into certain incentives via your school board taxes, your county taxes, and certainly maybe even your city taxes. But that's kind of the space that I want to be, working in is being ready for this when it does happen and seeing what our response is going to be in a prudent fashion, obviously. But certainly, I think we need the relief in this space.
Okay. We need to look at the bill and see the ultimate impact on our ability to provide service. I still look at it as like a backdoor way of getting to rent control. That's my opinion of it, but I haven't read the details of the bill. I'm just going based on incentives and what have you. If you agree to do something where you limit the increase in rent or stabilize or freeze in exchange for something, it is a backdoor way. And maybe our colleagues in Tallahassee don't see it that way. Maybe they believe that there's going to be some sort of relief here. Perhaps we're going to dive into it. But if what you had said earlier, and I don't know all the details of the bill, it requires a trigger effect from a city, like a buy-in.
Yes.
I think that we need to be very careful. To your point early on, our budget people need to take a look at this and see what kind of impact. Because the one thing we cannot do, and you see it earlier, so people come here, they talk about they're undermanned, underemployed, benefits, what have you. There's a group of people that pay for all that, right? And so the question ultimately will be is that we're gonna have to pick who we're gonna fund more. We just need to be very mindful of it, okay? The amount of money that comes into the city and the ability for us to provide service is razor thin. And I would invite you, like all of you, I would invite you to sit down with Ruth, sit down with our finance folks, not just talk about budget to budget, talk about the next 5 or 6 years and the challenges that we're gonna be facing. And you're gonna see that they're real. They're real. And and I don't want to fall into traps that have a nice soundbite to it, but then hits us in another end that then we're going to regret. And that's something that I just think we'll be mindful. But again, we'll look into it. I think we need to look into it because obviously there's going to be pressure perhaps to react to it. But we need to be mindful of the responsibility that we have first before we get into a realm that
The last thing is there's a lot of stuff in there that unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, is the state's doing preemptively, so we won't really have much say over it. It's just gonna happen. We're gonna get hit with it. This is one of the facets of it. The interesting thing is that the state in this portion of the bill gives us ultimate control to make these decisions. So that's what I'm interested at, is making sure that we're ahead of the ball when it comes to this. So I don't know if next meeting is too soon, but if we can have something put together, I think this is something that's going to happen quickly. And I think, we want to be ahead of it rather than be caught off guard.
I'll try to have more information and, I think we've got Carlos up in Tallahassee now chasing appropriations items, and I'll see if you can get us some more information.
Thank you.
As far as intent is concerned, but we should all be mindful of not giving up our jurisdiction and our responsibilities of what we're in charge to do.
Yeah, we joked around last time when we said we might have to cancel planning and zoning from now on because a lot of it will be preempted and it's looking like it's going to happen.
Tú lo dices, Juan, and it is very dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you start punishing a city like ours that tries to do things the right way. And you've all been in the planning and zoning meetings. You know how painstaking you guys all work on trying to make sure you get it right. And then you're going to have somebody from above dictating to us, and this is not about Republican or Democrats, just simply jurisdiction. And we have a jurisdiction and a responsibility that we should be protective. If not, apague la luz and let's leave. There's nothing else for us to do there. We'll get you that info, Council.
Anybody else? Yes, Mayor, go ahead. You could go. All right. We are going to move on. We had unfinished business and new business. Give me just 1 second. Nobody with new business, correct? Okay, do you want to take a 5-minute restroom break? Or are you ready to keep it going? Council members?
Let's go.
Let's keep going.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So we're moving on to planning and zoning. If I could please ask whoever's in the audience in council chambers that is going to speak on an item, could you please rise and raise your right hand to be sworn in?
Las personas que quisieran prestar sus opiniones delante de esta junta, por favor, pónganse de pie y alcen la mano derecha.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. If so, say I do.
Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio que va a dar será la verdad, toda la verdad y únicamente la verdad, y que Dios sea su testigo. Por favor, diga que sí, si la respuesta es afirmativa.
Let the record reflect that I have responded in the affirmative.
En el archivo público constará que todos han respondido afirmativamente.
Thank you. We're moving on to our planning and zoning portion of the meeting. PZ1 has been postponed. We're going to be moving around some items today with respect to the order of how we're conducting business. However, I would ask respectfully if we could move up item PZ14. We have somebody that has an emergency, would have to leave chambers. Council members, do I have an objection?
No,
All
go
right.
on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a special use permit to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-1630.8. Granting a variance permit to allow 12 residential units with an area ranging from 735 to 737 square feet, where 850 square feet is the minimum required, and only 10% of the units may have an area less than 850 square feet. Allow a 4.5 feet front setback where 10 feet built to line are required. Allow 22 parking spaces where 41 parking spaces are required, and a variance to waive the building mass and frontage development standards. All contra to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-1630.2, 98-1630.3, subsection E1, 98-2189, subsection 16A, and 98-1630.2, subsection C and D. Property located at 250 East 9th Street, folio number 04311800600780, 04311800600790, Hialeah, Zone CR, Commercial Residential District, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Reyes. How are you?
Good evening, Manny Rivers Architect with offices at 18501 Pines Boulevard, Suite 342. Thank you for moving me up. I have some projects that I got to turn in and I got to run back to the office, so I apologize. Basically, we have here a beautiful 4-story, 18-unit apartment complex at 250 East 9th Street. Another modern building that we're proposing to do here in the beautiful city of Hialeah. This is composed of 18 units, 6 2-bedroom units, and 12 1-bedroom units. The 2-bedroom units are approximately 1,080 square feet, and the 1-bedroom units are about 737 square feet. The parking, we're providing 22 parking spaces plus 3 stacked parking spaces totaling 25, even though the 3 parking stacked are not allowed, but we are providing them so we can assign them eventually to the units that require them. The 2-bedroom units will end up with 2 parking spaces, and the 1-bedroom units will end up with 1 parking space, leaving us 1 extra parking space. In addition to that, about 150 feet to the east, there's approximately 12 to 15 off-street parking spaces that are available for our use. And basically, we would suggest that the board please review our project and allow us to develop it, another one of our beautiful projects in the city of Hialeah. If anybody has any questions, please, we're more than welcome to answer them. And I have ownership here with me in case any questions arise.
Through the chair,
Yes, sir, recognized.
just Manny, how many 1-1s?
1-bedrooms are 12 and 6 2-bedrooms.
Okay.
And they're pretty nice in size, especially the 2-bedrooms.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else have a
Through the
concern?
chair,
Yes, sir.
you're representing a developer who keeps his properties in Hialeah. I notice them as I drive around and he keeps them all first rate. And he doesn't flip them. He keeps them, so
Yes.
he runs them right. I know that.
100% of our clients are, they stay for them for life. A lot of them are under estates and so forth. So they keep them for their kids and grandkids.
There you go. That's what we need.
Which is what we want.
Through the chair.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Just, yeah, because I think this is probably either the first or the second big project on 9th Street, right? I
Yes.
think this is a good trend to see that area be revitalized.
And we're coming up pretty soon with 330 East 9th Street, which
Okay.
is going to be 30-something units, which is going to be beautiful. And another part that I want to mention is that we're implementing quite a bit of artwork within the facades of the building, as
Oh,
you
good.
can see here. And we're giving chances to artists and so forth. So this is something different that we're doing in the city. And Deborah is behind us 100%.
Would you, through the chair? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Would the owner consider local artists as priority?
Freddie, I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Fred. Yeah.
No, please.
Okay.
Any other council discussion?
Through the chair.
I would like to, okay, go ahead. You're recognized.
Deborah, just a quick question. This central business district CR zoning, what's the maximum density just for my understanding?
The maximum density is 40 units per acre.
40. So with MBD, they'll go up to 70?
With,
Or-
no, with MBD, yes, it's 70.
70.
Yeah, but they are not utilizing the maximum. Under the CBD, they would be able to build 12 units,
Right.
and they are asking for 8 units. It's 6 units more.
6 units more.
Yes.
And there, in this specific project, I'm seeing there's some commercial activity on the first floor or no?
It's basically, I failed to mention that is.
You come up to the microphone, please, Manny, if
Sorry,
you don't
I'm
mind.
sorry.
Thank you.
Most of our projects have common areas on the ground floor that are used by the tenants.
Okay.
As to not generate additional parking and as gyms and reading rooms and computer rooms, et cetera. I'm sorry, I didn't mention.
Yeah, I always have since retail is not as it used to be.
MBD is dead.
Yeah, you don't want to have adult daycares on each first floor. So what I told the developers, at least
Nope.
try to put some active space. If you have a lounge, if you have a gym, something transparent that when you walk, you see some activity, and that's called eye on the streets. That also gives more safety.
Deborah, Councilman, are you done?
Yes.
Yes,
Motion.
okay, thank you. Deborah, is there there's no street parking here, correct? This is from the map that I'm seeing, there's nothing on the street, correct?
Nothing on.
No street parking.
No, on Ninth
There's
Street,
nothing-
on Ninth
nothing
Street,
here.
no, but on the avenues, there's plenty.
On the
yes.
back end of the property?
150 feet running east on Ninth Street on the south side, there's between 12 and 15 parking spaces that are on the street on Third Avenue.
Is it, are you
Those-
going to be, where is that? Oh, I see where you are. Yeah. Yeah, but that's further down, no? Because isn't there a property
South.
between,
150 feet south on Ninth Street.
so there's about 3 properties between
So
you
there's
and,
only one property adjacent to us, and then comes the corner.
okay. I love this building and I love that, you continue to put the parking on the bottom, coming up with innovative ways to use this space. I love that the plants are on the side of the building, so it doesn't just all look like a concrete facade. So I think that's fantastic. I am a little bit apprehensive though with the requirement, Deborah, 41 spaces and they're only offering 22.
Well, here is an explanation. In the CR, the parking in the NBD, the parking requirement is very stringent because you need for 1 and 2 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces, and then you have the guest parking spaces. In the CBD, that is this area, for the first 15 units, you just need 1.5 parking spaces. So if this was calculated as a CBD project, they would be almost there with the parking. They would be, the requirement would be 26 parking spaces.
And they're at 21?
And they are at 22.
22, okay. Is there any possibility of offering a stacking space with any of this?
They are
Right.
providing.
Any additional with
Yes,
the space
they're
that is?
providing 3 stacking spaces. I mentioned that at the beginning.
Is there any additional? I understand that there's 3. Is there any additional spaces first? That was it. That's
No.
maxed
We
out.
would end up with 25 parking spaces with the 3 stacking spaces, which is 1 parking space over the required.
Okay.
Also, this is an area that you can go walking to 2 schools, to a park. There's a supermarket 1 block from there. City Hall is at walking distance. That there are many things that you can do without having to use the car.
Okay. So they're off by about 4 spaces, we would say. If they're 22
If
and
this was calculated as
it would
the
be about
CBD,
25.
yes.
Okay, that was my concern. Okay,
And also, I failed to mention, excuse me.
yes,
there's
sir.
Plenty of landscaping on the second level, which is something that
Yes.
we're introducing in our projects to create a much nicer ambience.
I love that. Yeah, that's one of the things that I complimented. It looks very nice because, it doesn't look like a giant concrete wall. I think that's fantastic, Manny. Thank you. Councilman, you had a question?
Just a second. on the motion.
We had a motion on the table by Councilman
Yeah.
Calvo and a second by Councilman Tundidor. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tunidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo is away. Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. All right, thank you so much. Let's move on. We're moving on to PZ2, please. Oh, Councilman Calvo's back.
Councilman Calvo, may I have your vote for item PZ 14, please?
Yes.
Thank you. PZ2, second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property from RO Residential Office to B1 Highly Restricted Retail District. Property located at 3375 West Fourth Avenue, Hialeah, zoned RO Residential Office District, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone in council chambers or on line that would like to speak on behalf of this item?
Madam President, good evening. Cesar Mestre.
Good evening, Mr. Mestre.
Office is at 8105 Northwest 155th Street, Miami Lakes, Florida. This is the second reading. This is the property where the Colonia Medical Center is going to be putting a building and the parking lot right next to it. The two items, PZ2 and PZ3, are companion items. You've already approved the land use. You approved it on first reading. There was a presentation. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I would respectfully ask for approval on second reading.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Tundidor and I have a second by Councilman Zogby.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez,
Yes.
Mr. Tunidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir. Moving on to item PZ3.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R1, one family district to P parking. Property located at 374 West 34th Street, Hialeah, zoned R1, one family residential district. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Do we have anyone in council chambers or online to speak on behalf of this item?
Cesar Mestre again with offices at 8105 Northwest 155th Street, Miami Lakes, Florida. This is the companion case for PZ2, which you just approved. This is the parking portion of it, and there will be a unity of title, which has been mentioned before. So I would respectfully ask for approval on second reading.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Motion.
A motion by Councilman Zogby
Second.
and I have a second by Councilman Tundidor. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tunidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Can we please move on to PZ4?
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property from M1 Industrial District to C3 Extended Liberal Commercial District, granting a variance permit to allow 27 parking spaces, 20 off-street and 7 on-street, where 322 parking spaces are required, 258 off-street and 64 on-street. Allow a waiver of the minimum landscape requirements, allowing 8 trees where 58 trees are required. Allow a waiver of a landscape buffer along West 74th Street where a 7-foot landscape buffer is required, and allow 3.11% pervious area where 30% is the minimum required. All contra to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-2189 subsection 10B and 98-2056 subsection B1. And to the latest edition of the Hialeah Landscape Manual dated July 9, 2015. Property located at 7445 West Fourth Avenue, Hialeah, zoned M1, Industrial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This item is also on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak on behalf of this item?
Good evening, Madam President. Hugo Arza, 701 Brickell Avenue, representing the owners and applicants. As Mr. Mestre did with his project, we went through a full presentation at first reading. Happy to answer any questions any of you may have, but in light of like your long agenda and that we had the full presentation first reading, I don't need to go through that again.
And Mr. Arza, it was approved with the conditions.
Correct. We accept staff's conditions. We proffered the
Fantastic.
declaration of restrictions, and
Okay.
so we're
All right, do we have a motion on this
Motion.
item? We have a motion by Councilman Zogby and I have a second by Councilman Tundidor. Can we please call roll?
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. That's it. Moving on now to item LU1, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance amending the future land use map from industrial district to commercial district. Property located at 7551 West Fourth Avenue, Hialeah, Zone M1 Industrial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This
again.
item again is on second reading. Anyone on council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf of the item? Go ahead, Mr. Arza.
Again, Hugo Arza, 701 Brickell Avenue for the applicant, and like I said, we made a presentation. This one goes with PC5, which you'll hear shortly. This is just a land use change to commercial, and that would allow us to effectuate the rezoning back in PC5. So again, we accept staff's conditions, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but otherwise we would just ask for the same favorable vote.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Motion.
I have a
Second.
motion by Councilman Tundidor. Oh, no, I have a motion by Councilman Zogby and I had a second by Vice President Garcia Robes. Please call roll.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes,
Motion carries. The item is approved.
thank you. Moving on to item PZ5.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property from M1 Industrial District to C3 Extended Liberal Commercial District, granting a special use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-161, to allow the site to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in connection to planned entertainment events, granting a variance permit to allow rear setback of 3.6 feet where 15 feet are required, allow 84 parking spaces where 300 parking spaces are required, allow a waiver of the minimum landscaping requirements, allowing 30 trees where 58 trees are required, allow a reduced width landscape buffer along West Fourth Avenue where 7 feet landscape buffer is required, and allow 3% pervious area where 30% is the minimum required. Contra to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-1071, 98-2189, subsection 10B, and 98-2056, subsection B1, and section D7 of the latest edition of the Hialeah Landscape Manual, dated July 9, 2015. Property located at 7551 West Fourth Avenue, Hialeah, zoned M1 Industrial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
I have a question. I know that last time that this item was up, Mr. Arza, we discussed that we weren't going to do the operate 24 hours.
Correct. We've withdrawn. The advertisement carried forward, but we withdrew that request, accepted staff's recommendation to just follow your city code hours. And so that we've accepted a condition limiting withdrawing the 24-hour request and limiting us to your normal city operating hours.
Okay, Madam Attorney, do we have that in writing in the back of the declaration of restrictions?
We're working on the declaration of restrictions.
Okay, because I don't see any.
Well, we actually did have it in
Detail.
writing in the declaration of restrictions, but Madam Attorney correctly pointed out that your code could fluctuate or change. So since we're no longer asking for any special consideration, we would be like any other property. We just have to follow your city code. So we're not asking for 24 hours. So whatever your city's laws are with respect to operating hours, we agree to follow. So that's,
Okay. And moving forward, should we wait until that's written? Because right now it's not reflecting that. So if we vote on it, it's still reflecting within, within the backup and within what's being proposed, saying that they operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I don't think that's actually part of the ordinance. It may have been part of the analysis and part of
Right.
the application. To the
Okay.
extent that is part of the analysis and the application, they've amended that. And we've certainly have reached agreement on eliminating that provision from the declaration of restrictions.
What's the pleasure of the council? Do you feel comfortable moving forward or?
Motion.
We have a motion by Councilman Calvo. Do I have a second? I have a second by
Second.
Councilman Zogby. Can we please? Let's wait for Madam Attorney.
By the way, I need to present to the city clerk an updated ordinance, not only with respect to that provision, which is no longer part of the header or part of the body of the ordinance. Sorry, I didn't realize that the item had been prepared with that. That specific provision about the 24-hour
Was removed?
is out in the revised ordinance, yes.
Thank you for that. So we have a motion and we have a second. Madam Clerk?
Who was the motion? I'm sorry.
Councilman Calvo, and we have a second by Councilman Zogby.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank
thank you all.
you.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Moving on to item PD 6.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a special use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-1630.8 to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay and granting a variance permit to allow building height of 126 feet where 95 feet is the maximum allowed. Allow 11 stories where 9 is the maximum allowed and waive massing setback requirements for building tower and cap. Contra to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-1630.3 subsection B and 98-1633 subsection E 1 and 2. Property located at 1035 Southeast Fifth Street, Hialeah, zoned M1 Industrial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and public hearing, and for the record, I would like to say that we do have a resident that has submitted opposition to the item. Madam Clerk, can you please read that into the record?
Millie Herrera with a home address of 4341 East 8th Avenue was unable to be here, but has asked for the record that I state that she has submitted documentation for the city council's review in opposition to the approval of the item. Such documentation has been made a part of the backup to the item.
Has everyone received that? Yes. All right, fantastic. All right, do we have any council discussion on the item?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
To the applicant, how many units is this project gonna be?
Daniel Martinez with Ramos Martinez Architects on behalf of the owner. It's 54 units.
54 units, okay. And then how many floors of the parking?
5.
5? So it'd be would it be the ground floor plus 5 or it would be
Correct.
5 total?
Ground floor, which has retail with backup parking and backup house, and then 5 stories above that.
Do you have a proposed tenant for that retail or
Not
still
yet.
too early?
No, too early.
And you guys plan on keeping the property or flipping the property? What's the goal?
No, the intention is to keep the property as rentals.
Yeah. One thing that was brought up that's actually quite interesting is And unfortunately, I don't think there's anyone here that can really answer the question, but I wonder if Hialeah has a fire truck that can reach that high in that area. In case there's an emergency or something like that.
So there's a code, right? The building would have to go through fire, and part of that would be like having sprinklers and all of that issued into the building for in the event that, you know, they cannot reach the height of that building. And we see this throughout other cities in New York City, and, you know, not all fire trucks reach that high. So therefore, I'm sure that there's different code enforcement through the fire department that they will, you know, ensure that the building has in place in the event that they can't reach.
Yeah.
As a clarification, high rises are deemed to be 75 feet and above. The current code already allows 9 stories. So buildings that exceed the 75-foot threshold have, as the president said, a different design criteria to deal with fire emergencies as is. So it is written within the code that a fire truck is not expected to go this high. It is only expected to go, the ladders are 75 feet.
Right, that's why there's the 9-story maximum allowed. And then so here we're asking for a variance to allow the 11 stories.
The reason is because they are building more parking than what is required. Since they noticed that many of the surrounding properties, because they are in the TOD, have less parking requirements, they think that parking in the future can be a business, so they decided to provide more parking spaces. So if someone needs, then they will rent it out as if this was a parking garage.
I mean, all that sounds great. I guess my practical concern is, you know, somebody's living on the 11th story and they got to get out of there. I mean, we don't have fire escapes in South Florida like they do in New York or Boston or whatever.
They will go
Oh, we-
through, yeah. we have.
No, the building is, New York fire escapes are a correction to a weaker fire code when those buildings were built.
Right.
Today's standards require that there be egress stairs of a certain width at a certain remoteness in the building to address that specific concern. That's why you no longer see fire escapes attached to buildings. That is a correction of an older deficient code that doesn't apply to today's standards. So corridors are fire rated, stairs are fire rated, distances for egress are measured and under code, and the building would comply with current fire code.
Okay.
Councilman, any further discussion on the item?
I motion.
Second.
Councilman,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, did he answer? Councilman?
If you just give me 2 minutes.
Yes.
Sorry.
And I'm sorry, sir, just for the record, your name is Daniel Martinez, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you. And your address is what's registered here, correct? Because we didn't get it on the record. I apologize.
It's okay.
Thank you. All right, Councilman, any further questions?
Yeah, so I guess my question is that area, right? It's currently industrial. So I guess is there a capacity there, or can you help me understand? In case there were a fire on the top floor and you did have to activate the sprinkler system, was there enough pressure in the water pipes in that neighborhood to reach up that high?
There are 2 things that will happen there. One is there is a required water pressure at the furthest point from the line. Number 1. Number 2, if that fire pressure isn't existing, these buildings are equipped, because they're high rises, part of the high rise code, with a backup generator and a domestic and fire pump to address that issue with pressure for a remote fire head.
Okay, so as part of the development, I mean, how extensive is the water and sewer portion of this project?
You're saying concurrency for water and sewer?
Yeah, when you're gonna
Service?
make the connection to the building, how far are you going in replacing the pipes? That's my question.
We have not gone through the concurrency process, but
Before applying for the building permit, all the projects go to the concurrency and site plan review. And I don't know if you noticed that tall building that they just built that they're finishing on East 9th Street. There was a lot of road construction there, and that was mainly because the developer had to do improvements to be able to serve that building. So in this case, they will first go to concurrence and site plan review. Fire, water and sewer, DERM, everyone will look at the project. And if there are infrastructure improvements that are needed, they will need to take care of that. That's why before asking for a building, sometimes people complain it takes like 6 weeks, 10 weeks, you have to go to DERM. But the main reason for the concurrency and site plan review is to verify that the infrastructure is there and that the level of service standards can be met.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm just, you know, a little. What I took notice is, I live close to, for example, Pura Vida, not to throw them under the bus or anything, but I remember a nice red fire truck right in front of the building because they couldn't get enough, I guess, water pressure for the sprinklers to work. So, I mean, obviously we have maximum height standards for a reason. If we're adding extra parking, but it's a safety issue, I just want to ensure that we're equipped to handle some sort of emergency. God forbid anything, doesn't happen for 40 years. That'd be fantastic. Certainly in our city, I mean, people build and those buildings stay a long time because, it's a good rental market or what have you. So I just want to ensure that we're appropriately planning for these contingencies. I mean, it's totally off topic, but I know for the annexation report that we were going to review today, one of the requirements was for us to purchase a ladder truck to be able to service some of these industrial areas or what have you, because we don't have one, presumably, right in that zone. So, development is great and all fantastic. Look, I love the whole TOD thing very well, in this case, NBD, but I just want to make sure our bases are covered. Once we approve this, it's out of our hands, and I'm sure they're going to get all the compliances that they need to move forward. I'm sure they'll build a beautiful project. I have no doubt on that. But certainly, I mean, this is the first kind of project in this area of this scale, of this, complexity, and then we're putting people in there. We just need to make sure we do our due diligence before we start throwing out, these approvals. So that was it.
Well, the 95 feet is it's not the limit 95 feet because it's a safety issue. I drafted the MBD and the 95 feet is because when it was drafted, none of the projects were still coming. We had to put a limit and thinking at the city, okay, how many floors we think is good. And I thought 9 stories, but the same way I put 9 stories, it could have been 10 or 12 stories. So there's no safety reason behind those 95 feet.
Should we?
And we approved in the TOD on East 25th Street, 10 stories.
10. I guess my question is, should we go back and maybe look at some of these, right, the MBDs and stuff like that, and see how we can adapt them to what's currently being built out, instead of having the whole variance process?
Each project is different, and like the massing requirements that many are asking for the variances are there because now we have great architects, big projects to working with the city, but in the past we didn't have that. Sometimes we have engineers, so it's a kind of having a base form code that if someone is coming with a typical rectangular cube thing, that means put some articulation into the building. So the architects now are prepared, good architects, they are providing that articulation in a different way, but it's better to have them in the code just in case that you have smaller projects and we don't have that type of architects. That's the reason behind all those requirements.
Thank you, Ms. Storch. Just for the record, we already had a motion by Councilman Tundidor and we had a second by Councilman Zogby. Can we please, Councilman, are you done so we could call the roll, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Can we call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Calvo?
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tundidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to item PZ 7.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow 32 parking spaces where 65 parking spaces are required. Contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2189, subsection 7, property located at 7963 West 28th Avenue, Hialeah, zoned M1 Industrial District, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Can you please give me your first and last name and address for the record?
Christopher Gutierrez, address is 7963 West 28th Avenue.
Perfect. Go ahead. This
I'm
item is
sorry, one more
on-
time. Christopher Gutierrez, your address?
7963 West 28th Avenue,
Thank
Hialeah.
you.
This item is on first reading. You're here to speak on behalf?
Yeah, so I already had the first meeting and I believe it was voted with terms. And that's why I'm here to see what we can move along with.
So you went through the planning and zoning board and there was the planner's recommendation of denial, right? And at that meeting, they said that they gave you a declaration of restrictions, right?
Right.
And there's a setting of numbers of employees. You're the barber, right?
I'm
This is the
owner.
barber shop? This is the barber shop.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to remember from our last meeting. So I think we, out of a courtesy, we tabled the item because we didn't have representation, and I know some of the council members had questions. Council members, this was the item that from the barber shop, that we didn't have representation last week.
Through the chair.
Yes, so you're recognized.
So what I understand is you're working hard, you're hustling, for lack of a better word. You have the barber shop, you have the sneaker business. I think this is the kind of energy we need in our city, and this is what was the application, 300 parking spaces required. We did like 20, so I think we could cut this guy a break. So I motion to approve. Thank you.
Okay. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Let's see.
Or do I have any council discussion on the item?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Just a couple questions here. Maybe Deborah, if Deborah, could you come up just for a second, just to kind of, for my knowledge, this was, can you just give me your
This was-
thought process on why the denial?
This was this was originally conceived as an industrial property. It had 10 extra parking space. So some commercial uses were allowed, but over time, most of the uses are commercial. So you calculate the commercial uses. The commercial uses require 5 times more parking spaces than the industrial uses. So the recommendation was denial because they have 50% of the spaces that they need for the uses that they have there at that location. For the uses that they have right now, they need 65 parking spaces. And there are 65.
65.
And there are 32 parking spaces. That's why when the planning and zoning board recommended approval, they did the calculations and they say you have 1,000 square feet. You only have 1 parking space assigned to your property. So if you're going to have more than one barber and 1 customer and another customer waiting for the barber to finish, and then you're going to have someone taking care of the sneakers business, you're going to have 5 parking spaces. So that's why they decided, okay, we will approve you, but we will limit the number of employees and those things that are in the declaration of restrictions.
Okay. So, but is there guest parking at that location?
No.
There's no guest parking?
There's no guest parking. There are 32 parking spaces shared by everyone. There's a cafeteria, there's a
But
gym.
the warehouse bay has like a parking in front of the door and then one in front of the bay, right?
Yeah, they have
So that's
like
2.
They have like storefronts. They have storefronts. But on the calculation of how this was made, 1,000 square feet only needs 1 parking spaces. There are more available, but when they calculated the parking spaces.
That makes it
for
very
1,000
difficult
square
though,
feet,
for a business. I mean, that makes no sense. The employee that has to open the door is one, but then everybody else that comes, that's pretty difficult. And your business model is very interesting because you operate as like a storefront that you sell sneakers, right? which is a hot commodity right now. And then you also offer the barber shop, right, service. Okay, so, yeah, you didn't know Councilman Zogby. You're not into sneakers, I think.
Was 40 years
Yeah,
ago.
not anymore. That's a big thing for the young people now.
Yeah.
They collect them. It's more than just wearing them. So does that work with you? What the declaration that's been offered to have one barber there, considering you had 6, is
Well,
what I heard prior?
We only have 2 barbers, so I would ask if we could be approved to have only 2 barber stations. And also I want to throw in that the sneaker store, the majority of it is
Online.
ran online.
Yeah, I figured. And what is it that, how is business working now? What parking use do you have? Do you have street parking? Do you have?
Yeah, well, so we have 3 parking spots that are assigned to us through contract. But I also have agreements from like all the tenants from the Bay that we all share parking spots. And there's, there's a restaurant, like she said, but we all operate in different times, and the barbers work by appointments and they're in and out. There's really never been a tow truck called. There's never been a police call. There's never been any type of issue related to parking at all.
Okay, did you say you had something there that you wanted to submit for the
Yeah,
record?
I have, so here's one of them. This is all, like, I have like a bunch of from, like, not only our property, but from like neighbors, the other properties like around us that
Right.
they all signed that there's never been any issues with, not even with our property, which we're at, but our neighbors as well.
Okay, that's good. So we're gonna submit that for the record. Did I have a motion by anyone?
Through
We
the
had a
chair.
motion by Councilman
I just
Caldwell.
want to amend my motion, sorry. I want to amend my motion to approve to read, motion to approve without restriction.
Hmm. Madam Attorney, right now, what are the restrictions that we have on record?
The restriction is 1 chair. And he's asked for 2.
Right.
Mhm. Okay, so you amended to motion to approve with 2 parking
No,
spaces?
just without
Councilman?
any restriction.
Without a restriction. How would that work, Madam Attorney? With no restriction of,
So you would approve the application as submitted by the applicant. The 2 barber chairs. That's what it is. Instead of 1.
yeah, I know, but I don't know if there's anything else that was submitted in there that we're agreeing to.
His application was only for a variance to parking. The restrictions or the conditions came in as a result of the recommendation.
From the
Right,
board.
but the variance is to allow 32 parking spaces where.
That's the application that he
Right,
submitted.
right.
So I believe that that is the council member's motion.
I mean,
To approve without the declaration of
That's right.
restrictions? And so, and how many barbers, how long have you been in the business for?
Well,
this-
I've
this-
owned the
this
barber
location?
shop
Yeah.
for, I'd say about 3 years, and since it's not, it's a warehouse, it's not highly, like, it's not like the best place for barber to go and work off of walk-ins. The barbers only work off appointments, so it's a very small, private type barber shop is what it is.
it's a
And
controlled kind of setting, right?
Right.
And so how many barbers have you had in the last year?
Well, we've had barbers come in and out, but we have one barber, which has been the main barber there, and then we have another barber there that he's been working with us for like 2 years. Seems pretty firm there, but we don't plan on, trying to get more barbers. Nothing. We're fine with agreeing to having 2 barbers.
Yeah. And so with every barber comes more clients, though, right? Is that usually how the logic works?
Right.
So, okay. I think 2 makes sense. I think 2 makes sense, but not putting a cap on it, I think it becomes a little problem. I mean, are you okay with having a 2 cap on that?
I mean, I do have the space to grow. I do have the space to grow. And if that would be available, then that would help me to provide more jobs for barbers. And it really wouldn't be an issue at parking, like how I stated. It's never been an issue ever with parking.
I mean, we should go off of a lot what you have to say, right? Because at the end of the day, it's your business.
Okay.
And so if I go to a restaurant or I go somewhere, I can't go to a barber shop anymore. But if I go somewhere, right, and I see that there's no parking, I don't go back, right? Just because that's, or, you know, unless you Uber or something like that. So I think it affects your business at the end of the day. So, I mean, do you think like maybe even expanding to 3 at some point with the limited parking spots that you have today, does that affect your business? Or, and you probably don't care about the other businesses around you because you're focused on yours, but do you think it creates a dynamic issue if you continue to expand on seats?
Definitely no.
No?
No.
Councilman, can I interject? What are the other businesses that are there? You said a
It's-
restaurant,
Well, yeah, we have there's a restaurant that's in the building. There's
but it operates during the day, during the
it
night?
operates mainly at night. We also have a print shop where they make clothes. We have an office that it's a real estate office. Like they just do their real estate stuff from there. There's a like a Domino's club there. There's not really much. There's like 10 bays, but there's a storage there.
The Millennium Karate is on the front and this is on the curve in the back,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a cigar bar, office, cafeteria, print shop, boxing gym, plumbing company, a BB gun.
Plumbing's not there no more.
The cigar bar operates at night there too, I believe.
A storage and a sport and dance studio.
A sports studio?
It's like a daycare kind of sport and dance.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion with no restrictions on the table. Do I have anybody else that wants to second that motion?
I'll second.
I have a second by Councilman Tundidor. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on now. Can we please read LU 3 into the record?
First reading of proposed ordinance amending the future land use map from industrial district to transit oriented development district. Property located at 2691 East 11th Avenue, Hialeah, zoned M1 Industrial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Tapanes.
Good evening, I'm Melissa Tapanes with offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, Miami. I'm here on behalf of Metro Station LLC, the owner of the property at 2691 East 11th Avenue. I'm joined by our project architect, Ivo Fernandez, as well as Ariel Gutierrez with Metro Station LLC. I have a presentation if you like.
Yes, that'd be great.
Excellent. Game time. Thank you. Metro Station. Thank you. Thank you. So we're excited to be before you this evening with the mixed-use transit-oriented development consistent with the city's vision for the Hialeah Transfer Station Subdistrict. What you can see on the screen is the property. It's about 1/2 acre in size and what is the boundary of this subdistrict. You see here the TOD proposed regulating plan. As you may recall, in 2016, our firm collaborated with the city to establish the TOD legislation. Our goal was to provide or promote pedestrian-friendly mixed-use development within walking distance of high-capacity rapid transit stations. This property is not only within the district, but most importantly, it's immediately abutting the actual transfer station. You can see that what we're requesting is a land use plan amendment from industrial to TOD, as well as a rezoning from M1 to TOD. We are asking for a variance, and that is to permit a 5-foot front setback along East 11th Avenue in order to create a larger pedestrian streetscape where 0 feet is required. This variance is important because we believe that it's necessary to encourage that retail, commercial activity on the ground floor. What you see before you are existing conditions of the site. You can see that it's immediately abutting the Hialeah transfer station. It's an outdated structure that was previously used as a gas station and a cafe. This is a new one. Sorry. There we go. And that is the rendering of Mr. Fernandez's design. What you can see before you is that ground floor retail along with 55 residential units, approximately 1,100 square feet of ground floor commercial in an 8-story building. We're providing 20 parking spaces on site, and the remainder will be part of the parking trust fund, which is part of the TOD. So no parking variance is in fact required. So these applications are consistent with the city code. We earned favorable recommendations from both your planning director as well as the planning and zoning board. So this project checks all the balances that the boxes that the city envisioned when creating the TOD legislation, and we respectfully request your approval at first reading this evening for both the land use and the rezoning, which is PZ 8. And I'll incorporate this presentation by reference to that item as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tapanes. Do we have any council discussion on the item? Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Oh, I was gonna say, unless there's other comments, I motion in advance.
Okay,
Second.
so I have a
Thank you.
motion by Councilman Zogby and I have a second by Councilman Tundidor. Can we please call roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you. I'm going to now read into the record PZ 8 that goes together with this land use.
First reading of proposed ordinance rezoning property from M1 Industrial District to TOD, Transit Oriented Development District, and granting a variance permit to allow a front setback of 5 feet where 0 feet is required along East 11th Avenue. Contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-1544, subsection 3I, property located at 2691 East 11th Avenue, Hialeah zoned M1 Industrial District, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any council discussion or do I have a motion on the item?
Motion.
A motion by Councilman Zogby
Second.
and I have a second by Vice President Garcia Robes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to LU 4, please.
First reading of proposed ordinance amending the future land use map from low-density residential district to transit-oriented development district. Properties located at 901 East 26th Street, 911 East 26th Street, 921 East 26th Street, 931 East 26th Street, 941 East 26th Street, 951 East 26th Street, 961 East 26th Street, 971 East 26th Street, 983 East 26th Street, 906 East 27th Street, 910 East 27th Street, 912 East 27th Street, 922 East 27th Street, 932 East 27th Street, 950 East 27th Street, 962 East 27th Street, 980 East 27th Street, 984 East 27th Street, and 990 East 27th Street. Hialeah zoned R1 one family district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
It's just a little bit of property, huh? It's like monopoly.
Through the chair.
So we have, a motion or a discussion on?
No,
this?
I just had a question for the applicant.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
How much did they pay for each one of these houses, do you know?
They're under contract, so the closing has not yet taken place and that purchase and sale agreements are private.
Or you could look on Zillow.
Well, soon enough.
Well,
I'm
I know-
happy to whisper to you after, off the record.
Yeah, it's $1 million, but anyways, so. Deborah, let me
I
ask
can
you.
say it's good for property values. in the
Yeah,
area.
I guess we're, what is it? At market overvalued. Deborah, let me ask you a question. The parking trust fund, what is like, how much money do we have in that account?
May I just to clarify, this project doesn't take
Okay.
advantage, actually has surplus parking spaces.
Got it.
The other project we're using.
Yeah, I was trying to butt in there, but my colleague here rudely interrupted me.
So I'm happy, but just to recognize this one is not, has an overage.
Okay,
of parking
understood.
I don't know exactly the number, but I think that two developments pay for that, probably for 4 parking spaces, around $80,000.
So not much.
Not much yet, because most of their developments comply with the parking. requirement.
Understood. Okay. Okay, I just wanted to have it in the back of my head. Thank you.
Yeah, for this project, we're providing 772 parking spaces, which is which is about 65 parking spaces more than required by code. So the goal is, because we are providing parking, this is Metro Park 2, Metro Park 1 also has parking spaces and has a retail component. In this one, we're not providing a retail component. We want that retail component fronting on 25th Street. But we want to provide surplus parking spaces for the community as a whole.
Are these parking spaces the tandem style or are they single use?
These are single
These are
use. The
single use.
tandem is not counted towards spaces.
I know they're unrelated, but the project we just spoke about, would these these tenants would be able to use the facilities at this location and presumably the original Metro Park?
That's the idea.
goal.
That's one of the thoughts.
Okay,
Yes.
understood.
That project, interestingly, is right abutting the transfer station. So we're
Right.
hoping that by providing retail at the ground floor and providing lesser parking spaces than each unit, that people would actually use the transit. And that's our experiment.
Look, I mean, in terms of my comments, I think the TOD is great. It's what that area needs, definitely. I'm certainly a supporter. I drank the Kool-Aid, but the only thing that I am concerned about is, certainly I think the original goal or one of the goals was to have these industrial parcels that permeate that area to be the ones that were being converted to TOD, as we just saw. And this is sort of a different strategy, which is we're taking over the residential neighborhood in order to build this project. And look, I'm sure the residential's plagued with issues. I'm sure everybody's happy when they got their money or when they get their money. But I don't want to be in a situation where you have this beautiful project and then you have to cross that horrific industrial corridor to get to the actual station. So I think that's the food for thought for the council. I know some of our colleagues that are unable to be with us today are the ones that are a little bit more hawkish in this space of, keeping the single family zonings as is. I don't necessarily share that sentiment, but, I can see how that would be a concern specifically when it comes to this, because obviously the TODs that currently exist there are the ones abutting 25th Street. This is kind of going now, one whole block now into the neighborhood. So while keeping the industrial is going to stay there for now, hopefully we get future buyers. But I saw that the property values are somewhat outrageous in some of these industrial parcels. So I can see why it's economically more feasible to buy the single family homes over the industrial.
But eventually it will happen. There is one item tomorrow in the planning and zoning board includes an industrial building. So little by little.
Is that I guess on the way basically you're saying on so
It's not-
27th Street?
It's not exactly on that, it's on the south side of East 25th.
Oh, on the south, yeah, with,
and on
what
the-
was his name? David Ortiz.
No, it's not him.
No,
And then on the east side of the railroad tracks, those properties that are fronting 25th Street that have commercial or industrial in the back, they are realizing that for the parking, it is better to have something in the back, so they are advancing over the industrial building. So eventually it will happen, and also when we have some of the buildings up, we will have to create some parking regulations like restrict or charge for the parking on the street, because most of those industrial buildings are being used for automotive uses, and they have capacity to serve one car and they are serving 10, and 9 of those are on our streets, and we are not getting any money for that. So eventually we will have to make some decisions about parking, probably charge on the parking, and that will little by little cure the whole situation.
when was this application originally brought forth? Like, I'm trying to think, what's the timeline for turnaround?
These applications,
Yeah, or
well, on
as a sample, right? I mean,
February 14. It went to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting on February 8th, February 8th.
so February 8, it went to P and Z, but it got submitted to the city in January.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it's pretty quick. And then we'll have another meeting. So in about it's a 4-month turnaround.
It's 4 months because we need 1 month when they submit the application,
Right.
because we have to process the
Yeah, obviously.
application. We need to prepare the legal to advertise it. Then 10 days before, we need to send all the notices out. We need to prepare the signs that are posted on the property. So that, being quick, takes 1 month. And then the whole process going to planning and zoning and to 2 council meetings takes the rest of the time.
Got it. And so what would be the anticipated, I guess, opening date? This is obviously going to be off, but estimated.
We anticipate about 6 months of preparing plans, maybe a year for permitting. So
Right.
we would anticipate 18 months to 24 months to break ground.
Break
And
ground.
let me just say, I know that earlier in this meeting, a lot of people were poo-pooing on the city. And as far as your planning and zoning departments, your building departments, your city attorney's office, everybody really works really well with the development industry. So this is still a very wonderful place to do work. And it's certainly a pleasure to be before this council. I wish every local government were like you all.
Not for long. This is like one of the last meetings you'll see us. Foreshadowing.
What? No.
Okay, great. So, I mean, I'm good with it. If there's any other, but I motion.
I have a question if you don't mind. Of course. There's still one property that's not on the list from that block, 991. Is that?
It was on the list. We're having some contractual issues. So what we did was we revised our plans. We anticipate that we'll be back adding that one parcel.
Okay.
And
Is-
something that was mentioned earlier that I think is important to note when we mentioned the streetscapes and specifically on-street parking spaces, this as an example of assembling this block and creating on-street parking spaces throughout. Just to give you the gross lot area for this site is 4.9 acres. And once we dedicate all that new right-of-way for things like curb, gutter, parking spaces, it turns into 3.64. That is over 1.25 acres to the public as part of this kind of project. So that's one of these ways that development really assists the city. So the streets get wider, they become on-street parking spaces instead of parking on medians, landscaping improves. So there's a lot of benefit to these kinds of projects as well.
Across the street from East 26th Street, there's some parcels there of homes. Is there any interest in incorporating that into the projects in any way? Or are those single family homes still going to be in front of that building?
East 26th Street, that is Metro Park 1. Let's see. Wait, is that?
Is
It's
this,
advancing every day. I receive calls from the architects that are developers looking for land in that area, from realtors that are working on consolidating blocks. So there's a lot of activity there, and I think it will reach up to 33rd Street and to Lejeune very soon.
So that
sooner
area is
than
a little
what you
bit-
expect, yes. The whole half-mile area from the station is being looked at.
okay. Is there's like some empty parking spaces and it looks like there's like a warehouse and a car dealer, right? On that same parcel behind the homes? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking in general, like I receive 2 or 3 calls every day from developers, architects, the important development companies, they all want to be there. So
Okay,
there are some dealings that are happening.
all right.
So, but what's in pink, in the bottom portion of the slide, that's Metro Park 1, which fronts 25th Street, and then what is outlined in black is Metro Park 2. So Metro Park 1 is already under permit, and we'll be starting construction very soon. And then this is Metro Park 2 immediately abutting it
On the backside.
to
Yeah,
the north.
got it.
Yep. So that's the 26th Street.
So the bottom pink is also,
Metro Park 1, that's already been developed.
right, that's
Correct.
all of that. And then the back part, okay.
Exactly.
Do I have, I had a motion? Councilman Calvo had a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Vice President Garcia Robles. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to LU4. No, we did LU4, PZ9, sorry.
First reading of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R1 One Family District to TOD, Transit Oriented Development District, granting a variance permit to allow a single-use multifamily residential building where a vertical mix of uses is required. Properties are located at 901 East 26th Street, 911 East 26th Street, 921 East 26th Street, 931 East 26th Street, 941 East 26th Street, 951 East 26th Street, 961 East 26th Street, 971 East 26th Street, 983 East 26th Street, 906 East 27th Street, 910 East 27th Street, 912 East 27th Street, 922 East 27th Street, 932 East 27th Street, 950 East 27th Street, 962 East 27th Street, 980 East 27th Street, 984 East 27th Street, and 990 East 27th Street. Hialeah zoned R1, One Family District. Contra to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-1630.1. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Item PZ9 is part of the LU4 properties.
Motion to
What's the
approve.
pleasure of the council?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Councilman Calvo and a second by Vice President Garcia Robles. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too.
All right, moving on to item PZ10.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a special use permit to allow the expansion of the neighborhood business district overlay pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-1630.8, granting a variance permit to allow 40 residential units with an area ranging from 620 to 693 square feet, where 850 square feet is a minimum required, and only 10% of the units may have an area less than 850 square feet, and a variance to waive the building mass and frontage development standards, contra to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-1630.2 and 98-1630.2 subsection C and D. Property located at 3875 West 16th Avenue, Hialeah, zoned M1 Industrial District. repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Good evening. This item is on first reading.
Good evening, Madam President and council members. My name is Javi Vasquez. I'm with Berger Singerman, and our offices are at 1450 Brickell Avenue, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Westland Commerce Park LLC. Joining me tonight is Mr. Carlos Rodriguez from the applicant company and our architect, Evo Fernandez, who is also with Modus and a big part of this project. So the subject property, I believe you all know it. It's a 2.5 acre parcel located at 3875 West 16th Avenue. This is about 9 blocks north of Pura Vida on 16th Avenue. It's on the east side of 16th Avenue between 38th and 39th Place. It's currently built out as a commercial/industrial development that was built in the 80s. If you're looking at it from 16th Avenue, you have a 2-story commercial development, and behind it you have warehouses on both 38th and 39th. And the majority of these uses are automotive uses. And this was a big part of the conversation throughout this process, where 16th Avenue, which is one of the main corridors of Hialeah, and some of these automotive uses, it's not that no longer aligns with the vision of the city and the NBD overlay opportunity. The NBD district ends about a block south of us, and the NBD opportunity allows for that vision for 16th Avenue to continue north. The request is for a special use permit to allow the expansion of the NBD district. And as the staff recommendation reads, there are 2 minor variances accompanying our request. Mr. Fernandez is here for any questions you may have. We're trying to keep our presentation simple. It's on first reading. We're not aware of any objectors here. This is coming to you with a staff recommendation of approval, as well as a recommendation of approval from your planning and zoning board. So with that, I am going to respectfully close. I will be here for any questions you may have. And with that, we'll respectfully request your approval.
Thank you, sir. Do I have any council discussion on the item?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you recognize.
I mean, I guess just unsolicited business advice, but if you hold for 2 more weeks, your property is going to be worth a lot more probably.
Why is
Right, with the new, I mean, because he basically, if this is zoned industrial, he'd be able to tap into the TOD density. And he's only asking for MBD right now.
This is a project that with the NBD district, which ends 1 block south of us, we feel very comfortable with the density. We think that the mass of the building and the density that's being provided is aligned with what's coming down the road on 16th Avenue. So I recognize what you're saying as there being additional value down the road, but we're very happy with this opportunity.
If you're happy with it, you're happy with it. Just, yeah. Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilman
Second.
Calvo, and I have a second by Councilman Zogby. Let the record reflect that Councilman Tundidor has left the meeting.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We're moving on to item 11, PZ 11.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a variance permit to allow 13 parking spaces where 26 parking spaces are required to open a new tapas and wine restaurant on the 2nd floor of an existing commercial building operating a liquor store. Contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-2189, subsection 4F. Property located at 400 East 41st Street, Hialeah Zone C2, Liberal Retail Commercial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Hi, good evening.
Buenas noches.
Good evening. Okay, si quiere puedes hablar en español y tenemos a alguien que sí puede ayudar.
Sí, ok,
Okay.
gracias.
Está bien.
Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Agustín Mosquera.
My name is Agustin Mosquera.
¿Y su dirección?
La dirección en cuestión o la dirección particular.
La dirección que quiere compartir.
400 East 41 Street.
400 East 41st Street.
Ok, muchas gracias. ¿Quiere hablar sobre la propiedad?
Sí, estamos para hacer una variante de parqueo
We are here for a variance permit for
Ujú.
parking
para obtener la aprobación para hacer un bar de vinos y
To-
tapas españolas.
to receive an approval for a tapas and wine and winery.
Básicamente frías.
Básicamente, ¿qué?
Tapas frías,
Basically, cold tapas.
sí, con una presentación gourmet.
Ay, qué lindo, qué rico. ¿Usted es el chef o el dueño?
No, no soy el dueño no
I am
pudo
not the
venir.
owner. The owner was
Eh,
not able to be present.
Soy el aplicante
I'm the applicant
y voy a ser el administrador
and I will be the administrator
Ok,
del restaurante.
gracias.
of the
Ms.
restaurant.
George?
Let me explain you.
Yes.
The owner was with him at our office
Mhm.
and he did like a power of attorney for him because he had to travel to Spain.
Mm,
That
okay, got it.
corner is 4th and 41st Street.
Yes. it's a
If you
corner.
remember, that was one of the worst corners in the city. For many years, there was a Botanica there that was closed, it was an unsafe structure, it was an eyesore.
Mhm.
So the current owner of the building, what he basically does, he imports wines and other goods from Spain.
Mm.
So he built that liquor store on the first floor and built the second floor as commercial with an open floor plan. And he never did anything there, but he always had this idea of doing something like the tapas bar where he can show the wines that he imports and sells and the olives and other things that he brings from Spain. Over
This
the
is
years,
Barbaritas liquor store, is that what it
it's
is?
Barbaritas
Ah,
liquor
okay,
store.
yeah.
So over the years, his business grew, and then he, in the back, he built a storage building.
Mm.
So he came for a parking variance because he was building that. That is a commercial property, so he needed a parking variance. What he explained the other day is on the times that this tapas bar restaurant will be operating, the liquor store will be closed and the storage will not be operating. So even though he's asking for the parking variance, the parking will suffice for the business model that they are proposing.
Mm, okay. Got it. So they're gonna have it on the second floor where the commercial floor is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
And I know that they have a drive-through.
They have
They
a
have-
drive-through for the liquor store.
Yeah.
yes.
So they have a drive-through. Yeah, they have a drive-through. I don't know,
I don't know if
La-
they use it or not.
that's what I was gonna ask them. ¿Las personas usan mucho el drive-through?
El drive-through del liquor store. lo
Sí.
usan, Yes.
It's a drive-through or like an Uber?
No, it's a
No,
drive-through.
it's a drive-through where they have a window on the side and you can buy and go.
It's close to my house. That's why I know it's not because I go.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, so we're finding out that Dogby doesn't like sneakers and you know where the drive-through is. Okay, go ahead. You're recognized.
How is the business, how's the liquor store closed when the tapas bar is open? They close very late and they're open 7 days a week, if I'm not mistaken, Barbarita. Ellos no abren 7 días a la semana
Sí, los 7 días.
y ahora cierran
The 7 days.
They
They closed.
a las 10. When is this tapas bar going to be open? After 10 o'clock then? ¿Cuándo va a estar abierto eso?
Sí, básicamente se va a abrir cuando cierre
Basically, it will open when
el
Liquor.
liquor store.
when the liquor store closes.
La idea que tenemos es que sea alrededor de las 7, 8 de la noche.
Our idea is
Pero no,
to be
no está abierto a las 9.
7 or 8.
Sí, para lo que es ir preparando todo.
Pero van
Ah.
For
A
the
partir
preparation.
de las 9 de la noche, los días que no está, que cierra a las 9 y las 10, los días que cierra a las 10.
That's what they proper,
Yeah.
that's what the owner proper when he came to
Yeah.
the planning and zoning board.
So 10. So nada más van a estar en servicio de 10 a 1 de la mañana, ¿no? Porque el vino nada más se puede vender hasta la 1 de la mañana. Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the council?
I say motion.
So I have a motion by Councilman Zogby. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Vice President Garcia Robes. Please call roll.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Gracias. Los vemos otra vez abril 11, okay? Okay, we're moving on to PZ 12.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181, to allow a 57-student K through 5 grade school with a shopping plaza in conjunction with an existing 60-student daycare. Property located at 6500 West Fourth Avenue, units 15 through 23, Hialeah Zone C2 Liberal Retail Commercial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So this item is on first reading. Do we have anyone here to speak
Yes,
on
hi.
behalf of the
My
item?
name is Octavio Santuri. I'm the architect and also represent the owners who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. This is, my office is at 6262 Southwest 40th Street. And I'm here today to humbly ask for an approval of this item. We have actually done a restructuring of the amount of children. They are licensed for 117 daycare children. They're asking for that amount to be separated into 57 for the elementary school, K through 5th, and for the remaining 60 children to maintain a daycare. And we work with Deborah and staff, and we come with some recommendations and conditions for approval. And we went before the Planning and Zoning Board, and it was unanimously approved. So we're here today for the same reason. Thank you.
Do I have any council discussion on this item? Need just
Uh,
1 second. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just wait. Motion in lieu of.
Okay,
This is in the Fresco y Más building?
that's what I'm trying to see. Is it located in the supermarket building?
Yes, it is, but yes, where the old Winn-Dix used to be, now it's Fresco
Mm-hmm.
on 65th and 4th. And it actually all the activity happens on the outside, not part of the vehicular transition of the shopping center itself.
Through the chair.
Yes.
So I'm looking at it from the top.
Okay,
Where would the school be? Would it be like where the Fresco y Más is or on the other side? Because I see it does like an L.
the shopping center, it's like
Yeah.
a U, like a U, and part of that U, it faces the side street, the 4th. The 49th, I'm sorry.
It's in, so if it does the U, it's at the cusp of the inside of the U. I think I've seen it. Yeah.
Of the center.
It's right in the middle. There's like a courtyard area.
Exactly, but
And
all
it's
the
there in that
activity
corner.
happens on the exterior,
On the
entrance,
back side,
the back
right?
side.
Don't they have a playground on the back side of
Yes,
that?
yes, I do as well.
And that's where they do their drop off in the morning and their dismissal in the afternoon?
yes,
They
yes,
don't
we
have to go through the center of that.
No, they don't.
That shopping center, I rings a bell because it was very dirty the last couple of times I've been going there. There's a lot of garbage that's here within the trees and stuff and in that little courtyard area.
Unfortunately, it's been there for a while. They remodeled a few years ago.
Mhm.
They did a big remodeling when it became Fresco, the Winn-Dixie. And they came before the board and the council for some variances.
Right.
And I guess since that's not used as much,
Uh-huh.
and I guess it's maintained, I would let the owners know.
Yeah. It was something that really was alarming the last couple of times I've gone there. Let me see where the backside is, because I know I've seen it.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you recognized.
Okay, so let me understand. So they have the 60 student daycare. And they have 57 students K through 5, right? They're just trying to legalize this, right? Okay. But I guess the question is, what's the pitch to a parent that wants to enroll their kid there for K through 5 when they have like a huge public school right next to them, Twin Lakes.
You know, I asked myself the same question and I observed what happens is that usually those children that want higher education, they were started there in the daycare.
Right.
And they chose to remain there because their K through 5 education was offered.
Right, okay, yeah, no, I get that, and I guess my question more specifically is, I mean, can you elaborate on what kinds of programs, if any, are different that they would receive there over the public school that's next door, or presumably another school?
I guess they want to go to a private school instead of a public school, whatever
I would ask more specifically, what's the class size? So
the class size.
what's the amount of students per class?
Well, it's 57, it's 6 classes. So.
But like, let's
8 or
say in the
10,
kindergarten, 8 or 10. So that would be your answer. And in third grade, about how many students? 8 or 10, same average?
About the same.
So that's your answer. There's about 26 kids in a public school system compared to 8 kids in the private school. So maybe it's a child that, you know, needs more one-on-one, someone that's been there for many years, maybe a child that has a learning disability. They accept
Yes, they do.
scholarships, correct?
Yes, I do.
For special needs children?
Yes, I do.
So they probably do that. No, and the back entrance is very calm. It's a nice dismissal and exit area. I think that's very safe for that location.
And there were some conditions that they're going to improve that back street.
Mhm.
They're going to asphalt and re-asphalt that area there, stripe it. Also put a sign, limited parking to 50 spaces, which it was recommended by zoning and we agreed on.
Okay. How many classrooms are there? How many
6.
actual rooms?
6.
6. So in the daycare space, there's the 60 kids all in one room?
No.
No.
They're separate. You know,
They're
it's
separated.
pre-K, it's for 1-year-old, 2 years old, 3 years old, and 4-year-olds.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the table?
I had the motion.
Oh, we have a motion from Councilman Zogby. I'm waiting on a second if anybody chooses to.
I'll second.
I have a second from Vice President Garcia Robes. Can we please call roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Thing is, we're 4 people, so. Yeah, okay, so I'll vote yes, but I'd like to talk more about it at the second reading.
Okay.
It's on first reading, so I guess we have time to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
any
we'll just
corrections
do
if
that.
you don't feel comfortable with that.
Thanks.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night. We're moving on to item PZ 13, please.
First reading of proposed ordinance granting a conditional use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-181 to allow a 20-student K through 2 grade elementary school in a freestanding commercial building in conjunction with an existing 41-student daycare. Property located at 430 West 29th Street, Hialeah, zoned C2 Liberal Retail Commercial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. We don't have quorum without you, ma'am. Oh, then we need to take our.
Take a break.
10%,
But
there's
we-
no quorum.
No. Take a little
Like
break.
a 5-minute break?
Take a 2-minute break. I don't know.
Here, the next one, I'll go during the next presentation. All right, do we have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember
Wait, which
Zogby.
item?
Do I have a second?
13.
Oh, but it's another school, huh?
Yeah.
Were you gonna do a
Hi,
presentation?
yes,
sir, on the next one?
yes, my name is Octavio Santurio. I'm at 6262 Southwest 40th Street, and I'm here again. This is a smaller one. This daycare is from K kindergarten to second grade. And it's a self-standing building and it has its own playground. And again, we worked with staff and zoning. And we were able to do a restructuring as well. They're approved for 61 children for daycare, and we're just changing the mix from 20 students, which is K through second, is three grades. So it's about 7 children per grade. And the balance of the children would be on daycare to maintain as a daycare, which is 41 students. We have some recommendations and conditions that they impose, and we agreed with it to provide additional teacher to go ahead and be there at times of dismissal, and I would have 2 dismissals for the elementary school children.
This is a different owner, correct?
Yes,
Octavio?
they're here today.
It's a separate than the
Yes,
last one.
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
they are.
Los Pinos. What was it?
So they're increasing their capacity from 20 to 41, correct?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
They have right now, they are licensed for 61 daycare students. Again, we're restructuring. And the amount of children that we want to maintain on the school, it's 41 for the daycare and 20 for K through second.
So you would be keeping, sorry, through the chair. They're keeping the same, but they're keeping the same number of.
The same number it's basically a restructure. Because it shows us to be there because they've been here. They're here to answer any questions. They're the operators, so.
It's the pleasure of the council.
I had a motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Zogby.
Second.
I have a second by Council Vice President Garcia Robles. Please call roll.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for April 11th, 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You won't
Thank
see
you,
me here
sir.
today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Moving on to land use portion, I think we have LU2 is the last one left, right?
Yes.
Am I right?
Second reading and
Yes.
public hearing of
Yeah.
proposed ordinance amending a future land use map from low-density residential district to medium-density residential district. Property located at 1797 West First Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R1. One family district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, so this is on second reading, but I do not see anyone here. Are they on the?
Mr. Mystery.
Is he on the computer? There he
Yes.
is. And I
I'm
was
the lucky
ready to
one.
adjourn the meeting. Oh,
I'm
Lord. there
I'm
you
the
are.
lucky one.
You're last. All right, but never forgotten. LU2, second reading, public hearing. No one's here. Anyone
Motion.
online? I have a motion by Councilman Zogby. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Garcia Robles. Can we please call roll?
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you
a
very
good
much.
night.
Good night.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I have a motion. We are adjourning at 10:03. Next meeting is April 11th.